I was around, some of my non-Jesus friends this weekend who I love dearly, but their mouths are just horrible, and I'm, as I become more and more convicted about, bad language or something, it hits me so hard, like, ooh,
it's all good.
That hurts.
Like, try not to show it.
Yeah, like, oh, that's cool.
Well, welcome back. So this is episode 31 of the Consider the Ravens podcast. Thank you for listening, viewing, subscribing, I hope, and liking. If you haven't already hit that subscribe button, and when the bell icon pops up, click it, and then click all. Because if you don't do that, it's not going to give you all the notifications. Now, obviously, I don't get to post every week. I'm hoping that maybe I'll change it to every other week just to make sure that I can be more consistent with it, instead of saying I'll do it every week and then sometimes skipping a week. I may just be like, okay, we're doing this every 2 weeks now. But we'll see. If you go down below and click the description, you'll find some links there. 2 links in particular at the top are very important. Hannah and I are going to Uganda in January, and we are still doing fundraisers. And I'm going to apologize in advance. I've been listening to the Craig Rochelle Leadership Podcast nonstop, so I've began to talk like him now. So I realized that when I filmed a TikTok video, and I was like, I don't know why I'm talking about this or like this. And then I listened to the podcast, and I was like, oh, that's why, because it's Craig Rochelle. So if I sound like him, my bad, I guess. He's a great speaker, so I guess you're welcome. That being said, if you go to those 2 links, you can give to either one of us or both of us. We're really trying to get all the funds, even though they are really helping us out. We still want to kind of offset their cost for us as much as we can. But that being said, this is episode 31 of the podcast. I'm Nick, your host. This is Hannah, your co-host.
What's up?
And
Savannah, hi.
other co-host. And this is the long-awaited, very well-known name, Ned. This is the Ned, the one I always talk about, that always listens to episodes.
We're always watching. Yep.
Always,
hey, everybody.
Always watching.
I'm always watching you.
So, Ned, what do you do for a living?
I'm a video editor, basically. I spent most of my life. I tell people I've never had a job. I got my first job when I was 48 years old, and that was God sent for sure. But I've spent my whole life on film sets, so I can do a mediocre job on just about anything going on a film set. So. For 25 years, I was a grip, and then on the big, back in the 90s, it was a situation where, very few people could do that work. So you'd show up, and it was all big budget stuff. So you'd show up, and there'd be helicopters and 18-wheelers and, 25 or 30 people running around on walkie-talkies and stuff, And I worked in that arena for a while as an assistant cameraman. A couple movies out in L.A. here and there to kind of sharpen me up. That's cool. And things like that. But I never really liked the films. I always tried to work on commercials because you don't have to be gone so long. I didn't like the 2 or 3 months out of, away from your family and friends.
Oh, wow,
stuff.
yeah.
So. Tried to do that a lot, and ended up kind of coming out on the other end of all that as just a videographer. Sometime around the early 2000s when they started putting the movie sensors in cameras. They started making cameras able to shoot movies. That's when the technology started getting really accessible. So we moved away from film, which I was like artisan, like a craftsman. I wouldn't say artisan, craftsman, right?
Yeah.
So I had learned this craft to handle film. I could, load all the different cameras in a little dark room without looking, and I knew how to take care of the film and get it to the lab and fill out all the reports, and I could pull focus. That used to be a job. Well, it still is, but now they have monitors.
Yeah.
I used to pull focus without a monitor. I just had to know how far somebody was from the camera, and just look at the lens and see where they are. So that was kind of a craft,
That's
and
pretty
then
neat.
all those walls kind of started falling down.
Yeah.
And that kind of mixed with my redneck piquant that I can't seem to escape, nor do I really want to.
Right. Yeah.
I just never got in with the ad agencies. So you were to work on commercials, ad agencies need to love you.
Yeah.
And as it's such a hip scene, and at the younger and younger the crowd got, the less and less hip I got, And so I kind of found a niche working for people that I would do like videos for like an iron pipe company or something, so like I'm hanging, or Altec, that was a big client of mine, the lift bucket truck people.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a good medium for me. I could do the work, but I never was really married to the work so much as what I liked about it is it helped support my family.
Yeah.
So I kind of, when I got out of the film stuff, I kind of wasn't so awfully passionate about cinematography anymore, because I kind of realized, like, I don't think that's ever going to really happen for me. So I just kind of became like, okay, I'll be this, nuts and bolts dude. I'm dependable. I get along well with people. I'll do this, videography. And that worked out okay, but I never was like insanely successful. Just kind of mid, enough to keep the lights on, sometimes barely. And and then in 2018, as things were really dropping off for me, because I was just getting older and older, and all the guys and women who staff all the jobs were getting younger and younger, and they're all great at their jobs. Like they just hire the people they know.
Yeah.
And I was kind of becoming, at that age, if you're not a producer or a director, you're probably not, and I wasn't. So, or the cinematographer, I wasn't really getting the jobs, and the income started clicking down a little bit, and I'm like, oh man, this is not looking great. And I'm go from that to gas station attendant.
Oh wow.
Like I have no other skills at all. Like if I can't do that for a living, I'm looking for a job, sweeping floors at DG or something. I don't know. Like, so anyway, thank the Lord, out of nowhere, one of my best friends for, my whole life is a vice president at a TV company. So he was like, man, something's coming down the tubes. Might be perfect for you. And so then in 2018, I got a job. So now I pretty much just edit all the time.
Nice.
I do a couple of big jobs a year where I go out and interview people and kind of put together my stories. And
that's pretty cool.
And that works well because it's always, they're heart-touching, stories.
Yeah.
So I dig that kind of emotional stuff.
Cool. How does someone get into that? How would I get experience doing that? Because that's something that I would love to do for a living. Right now, I'm a roofer, and I don't enjoy it at all. So I'm trying to find something. I don't know why that this was a concept that I never thought of. But she asked me one day. She said, "Have you ever taken your hobbies and things that you enjoy and searched them up for a job?"
Right.
I said, "No."
Y'all don't have
people
to
do that?
No,
Right.
I said, wait, you mean I could do what I enjoy and get paid for it? What? So, because I always thought, like, if I'm going to get paid for something I enjoy, it's going to be this or my streaming and video stuff that I already do on TikTok and Instagram, whatever. I didn't think about going and actually finding a real, like, actual job working for a company that does it. And I don't know why that concept never crossed my mind, but when she said that, I was like, wow, I'm so thick-headed, I never even thought about that. So how would I get into that?
Well, one great thing about production is, and I think it's still the same. Nobody has ever asked me in my whole life, where did you go to school, or what degree do you have, or ever. They want to know what you can do. Are you good at your job? And they, most likely would rely on, well, I know this person. They said you're good, So the way I did it, and I think it's just so great because, like, if you come up without the resources to go to college or something, it's an industry you can get into, and you can make a really good living, and it's pretty fun. I'm a little bit of a homebody for it, but especially young folks, if you got, like, out there juking and moving around and going. I mean, I flew all over the country. I did all, driving all over the country, doing crazy stuff, flying in helicopters. But I'm such a homebody. I was always like, this is okay, but I just want to go back home and see my family,
Yeah.
But I will say, I think I volunteered for like 2 jobs as a production assistant. That
Yeah.
production assistant's kind of like to do everything on the film set.
Yeah.
So you'll end up doing the stupidest thing ever. Like, in between shots, we need more leaves on the ground. So you'll be running around like spreading leaves around trying to make them look natural. And you got about 10 seconds to do it before somebody starts yelling at you, okay, get it done. We got to roll.
Get out the way.
We need to roll. Yeah. And it's a great way to kind of see into different departments and see what your interest is. Some people love production. Some people like camera. Some people like grip. Their props. That's a whole other thing that people could do. I think, like, my daughter Ruthie would be a great property person, know. And so you got hair and makeup, all that stuff, electric. So you can kind of peek in and see what you like. And then, they work hard. That's something that you'll never... If somebody don't think you're a hard worker, you'll never work for them again. So it's kind of in the sense that it's a field to get into, that you can get into without a degree and stuff. If you don't have a work ethic, you will fail.
Yeah.
Like, because they can smell it on you. Because those people work, like on a movie, a 14-hour day was pretty luxurious.
Yeah.
You'll be like, cool, we're cutting, we're out. Sweet, I'm going to get some sleep, but if you work hard and, you show up on time, you got to show up on time. And then, word will get around, and you'll say, hey, I'd like to do this again. But if you're a good production assistant, the production will hire you as a paid production assistant on the next gig if you do a real good job.
Nice.
And then, like I said, you do that 10 or 15 times.
Yeah.
People get to know you, and you start, what I did, I always gravitated towards camera. So I'll be like, hey, what's up, camera guys? I'll hang out with y'all.
Yeah.
You need anything?
Yeah.
What's going on? And then before you know it, I was, over in that department. And then I found a mentor who taught me all that stuff, and so it was, and again, I didn't have I actually quit college and used the last of my student aid money to buy a little 16 millimeter film camera. I was like, I'm in,
With the crank and all, huh?
Well, one of them had a crank. One of them I actually spent the extra money and got a sync motor on it. Yeah. So. Still got that. The Krasnogorsk. It was a Russian. I guess somebody in America discovered a warehouse full of these little Russian cameras for $1,500. You could get a motor on it, and it would hold a 100-foot load of 16 millimeter.
Nice.
And they were selling them left and right. So every beginning person had
Yeah.
a Krasnogorsk, or it was a crash cam.
Mhm.
Like the bigger productions would use them. Like, we're gonna fly it off a cliff, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So
That's
I got
awesome.
one of those. I shot a couple of music videos for a band called Pain.
Pain.
And they were like a ska band from the 90s. Everything is from the 90s for me. After, 2007, I'm just a dad. So everything I say that was like anything different was in the 90s, it seems like. But yeah, Pain. I shot a couple of videos for them, and just went on into the business. And, it's kind of always fun. You get a lot of days off, but too many, you'll start getting nervous.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the thing. It's very competitive though, because if you mess up, show up late, slacking, there's a lot of other people who are just itching to get your spot,
Yeah.
and they're hungry,
Mhm.
and they'll take it.
Right.
And producers got no reason to hire you ever again if you don't do the job.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you're just a subcontractor for a day.
Right. So, do you work for a company, or is it all you?
No, I work on staff at a TV station.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excuse me. That's actually pretty cool. I knew somebody else that worked for a TV station, but I don't think they did video editing. I think they just did the live production stuff. I'm not sure. I don't know much of what they did, but I know it pays well, and it sounds like a lot of fun every time someone talks about it. So
Yeah. It can pay well. It really can. Although, back to the old days, like when I was lined up, I was like, this is what I'm going to do. Man, you could realistically make, as a commercial cinematographer, you could make, $7,000 to $10,000 a day. And so but that was back when hardly anybody knew how to do it, And so I was like, ooh, that's me, I work 10 days a month.
right, yeah,
Like, we're
I'm
good to go.
for the year.
But I think
bro.
that mentality is probably part of the reason I wasn't super successful. At it, 'cause I was
Right.
like, I only want to work 10
Right.
days a month.
Yeah.
I always worked it. What I loved most about the job was the off time, because I could go hiking or go do my thing.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
why I never, it was, so on my off days, I was never like, how can I, take this further or develop my skills or go do, build my business up. I was like, see ya, I'm in the woods.
Right. Yeah.
And so maybe that's the reason I ended up.
That's how I would be. I'm not gonna lie. That's
Super successful at it.
That's-
So my real passion is, being off work.
Yeah. Same. Doing stuff like I left work early today because I told him, I said, hey, I don't care how far we are from being done. At 4:45, I've got to go because I've got prior arrangements that, I enjoy much more than this.
Right.
So we were pretty close to being done, but I looked at everybody. They looked at me. I said, I turned around. I got off the roof and I came here. Like that's.
I did the home remodeling helper job in 2008 when the economy tanked. The film industry was the first to just stop, and I'd had this. Ruthie was born in 07. Paula had a decent job, and in retail, and I was doing okay for that time. And when we got married, we were cruising along pretty good. And then I said, you know what? I got it. Quit your job. Raise the baby. You can stay home. I got you. And then the bottom dropped out of the economy. Like, she quit her job in December 07.
Yeah.
In January 08, they're like, there's no work. You're done.
You're like, wait. Oh, wait.
Oh my gosh. So we just bottomed out, man. And so I took the $10 an hour, thankfully, I call them the rock and roll remodelers. These guys who are grown-ups, and they really don't have any they really are not anymore thinking like I'm going to be a rock star. But they love playing music and being in bands. So they start remodeling companies to, support their family. And they're always still playing in bands, just for fun.
Yeah.
And so some of my best friends are those people. And so I was like, hey, man, can I grab a paintbrush and come on board? And thankfully, a couple of my friends kept me barely squeaking through that time. So I do have a little bit of that experience. And I've never roofed, but we were painting houses. And the one thing I remember hating is prepping houses to be painted in freezing cold weather. And the first thing you have to do is pressure wash it with bleach. And so, you're like, and the bleach is like coming down in your face and stuff. And yeah, I've got a t-shirt over it, but it's wet with bleach. And,
right.
It's falling in my eyes and my head. And I'm just like, I hate this. Like, I just hate it, And so thankfully, then I met a guy who did tile. One of my best friends does tile work. And so I started working with him, and I wasn't even that good at it. He was just such a sweet guy. He kept me, all I do is mix up his mud and like make his cuts for his tiles. But I was never even, a couple of years into it, he'd be like, that's too thin. Like when I mix up his mud, and you could see it in his eyes. He's like, it seems like you'd be getting it by now. But he's so sweet. He kept me on, and one of I realized he's the most shy person in the world.
Yeah,
and he's also very good looking, tall, handsome fella, and he doesn't like to speak, so that also makes him mysterious. So the homeowner ladies, just loved him, and they wanted to talk to him, and he can't do it. I mean, it's not that he didn't like it; he can't do it, So he kept me on to be the motor mouth.
Oh yeah,
Like,
actually.
so I would sit and have coffee with the housewives. Well, and he's like, I'm fine with that. If you will just keep them from talking to me, that's cool, So, so I had to do that for, a number of years. But thankfully, I guess about 2011, things started ramping up a little bit again. So, yeah, 3 years of doing that, so I definitely don't want to go back.
Yeah.
At least in that capacity. Although I do think it would be fun to be a real craftsman, like a home builder or a cabinet maker or something like that.
I feel like.
But cleaning out behind toilets before somebody paints, that's not really the gig.
Carpentering is fun to me.
I feel like carpentry would be fun. Roofing, not even a little bit.
Well, I think roofing's fun personally.
She's clinically insane.
So y'all start a company. You do the manual labor. He runs the office.
Yeah, it'll be opposite. It'll be great. Yeah. So let's go back. Where? Well, I guess I'll ask this first since we've already talked about it. You said you used to work on movie sets as well.
Mm-hmm.
Have you worked on any movie sets of like movies we might know?
Oh, I don't know. Well, no. I mean, the short answer is no, but maybe. Like, most likely not. I did. I have the funniest list of people I've met. Like Meatloaf. Like I worked with Meatloaf on a movie, which most people. Do y'all even know who Meatloaf is?
No,
do you?
I don't. I've never heard.
He's just an old timey star. He was a pop singer, and every song he sings is an anthem. It's all big. And what's that weird movie where Rocky Horror Picture Show? Yeah. Have you ever heard of this thing?
I've watched it.
He's in that. He's the biker in that.
He's the that's
Meatloaf. Yeah, and
that movie's terrible.
It is so weird, but I've worked with Meatloaf. I've worked with some sports people like Triple H.
Oh,
I used to work with Triple H all the time.
That's awesome.
So they would call me.
Was he cool? Did you like?
Well,
Nope.
I think Triple H is cool,
Uh-huh.
but I have a hard time sometimes with there's like a scale here because I've worked in gyms before. I know
Yeah.
you can't tell it by looking at me, but I used to. My best friend is a like a workout dude, jujitsu expert.
Mm-hmm.
Teaches jujitsu, teaches has a gym, and I used to be heavily involved in that, and so people like him, like he's not a jock,
Mm-hmm.
and nothing against jocks. I love them. They just don't like me. I don't know. Like they can smell it on me. I don't know what it is. Something about my. I can't figure it out. But so I always got along with like the alternative workout muscle dudes who were like lifting stones and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah,
But
yeah.
but the pro football players, they're straight in on me. So like there was this one Kevin Green. He used to give me the biggest problems,
Oh.
and he was just like pick on me, pick on me. But Triple H, we had a decent relationship. I would see him. I saw him a few times in a short amount of time,
Yeah.
and I realized if I just threatened, he would threaten to kick my butt, and for whatever reason, not really.
Yeah.
But I realized if I threatened him back, it would get like a laugh instead of it gets serious. But see,
Right.
I don't like being hazed. I don't like being picked on.
Yeah.
I got a little bit of my dukes up about being picked on.
Yeah.
And I never like being. Other guys would be like, if you just relax, dude, it's like nothing. Like I'm like, oh, I like when I don't like that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but he was always here. The capacity that I knew him, he was, superstar wrestler. So he had this, his wife would come with him to get surgery at Dr. Andrews' clinic. This dude, Dr. Andrews in Birmingham, at the time he was at Health South. Now I think he's just Dr. Andrews. He's like one of the best orthopedic surgeons in the world. So all these high-end athletes come there to get their knees fixed or whatever.
Yeah.
And so that's how they would send his TV wife with him, though. So WWE or F or whatever the organization was would be making a piece about it. So I would be the camera guy for this. So, met Triple H a few times, those types of things, but nothing major. No,
Yeah.
I've never met Tom Cruise or anything. Not that I'm dying to, but
Right. All right. Well, now let's go back. Where are you from? When did you meet Jesus, and how did that come about?
Well, where I'm from is a bit of a convoluted path. I had my parents were parents in the 70s. So, a lot of my experiences, that was my launch pad, right? So, a lot of my experiences come from that situation, which, I always say, me and my dad always had a great relationship. Me and my mom, not so much. They were both big partiers. So I grew up in the 70s. I won't go into too many details. It's a family show. But a lot of drugs, a lot of partying around me. And then me and my sister, we finally figured out, like, in the late 70s, my dad was like, oh, I'm not gonna do that anymore. And my mom was already too far gone. Like, she never came back from it. So at that time, we lived in Pleasant Grove, Alabama, which is over near Fairfield and Inslee. I actually drove down the street the other day of that I grew up on. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is that type of beginning kind of calls for tumultuous childhood. So my dad, yeah, he put down the heavier party and stuff, but he was always like a weed smoking type hippie dude. Um, and with the biggest heart, just, he loved me so much. And I joke too that, you know, he used to take me after my parents divorced. My mom kind of disappeared out of my life, basically. So, for all intents and purposes, I was just separated from her for most of my life, which really, did a job on me, feeling abandoned by your mommy. So that is woven through my whole experience in life too. But my dad, he once he divorced mom, we went. Gosh, we moved to Chelsea because that's where my grandparents live. So that was always like our safe place. Like whenever everything falls out, you just go back to Westover. It wasn't in Chelsea; it was Westover, and they had land there, and there was always this rickety trailer anybody in the family could move into if they needed to, and then so I'll try to shorten this. They divorced finally when I was 10. Went to Chelsea for only a few months, fourth grade. Then my dad had already moved to Houston, Texas, and a lot of my family members did. There was apparently a big boom there, like a financial boom, and they put the glass in tall buildings. So they all went out there. I followed after fourth grade, and then I was in Houston for fifth and half of sixth grade. Then we moved back to Birmingham, lived in Southside for just a few months. Wait, oh, I did go back to Chelsea for a minute. Then somehow ended up in Southside in an apartment. I can't even remember how. For a minute. Then my dad got a job in Atlanta. So we moved to the outskirts of Atlanta. I went to 7th, 8th, ninth, and half of 10th grade there. Then we moved back to Chelsea, and I finished there. And, and after that whole time I had a stepmom. When we went to Houston, my dad had met a lady. And then, I stayed with him until, well, in 10th, after I graduated high school, the night I graduated high school, I moved into that trailer.
Yeah.
And my cousin, who graduated from Pleasant Grove, moved into the trailer too. And we had quite the summer, mostly unmentionable. But we built a skateboard ramp out front, and there's a lot of partying and stuff. So after that, I think that was pretty much it. That by that time I was an adult. Graduated from there and spent a lot of the rest of my life around Southside and stuff. And lived in Southside until 2004 when I bought a house for me and Paula to move into in Roebuck, which was still Birmingham.
Yeah.
And then moved here 3 years ago. So.
Nice.
That's
So,
a lot of moving around.
Oh man, it's a lot, and I think that's one of the reasons I was saying earlier I'm such a homebody. It's because, the home may change places, but that home is my home base.
Yeah.
And that's where I like being. And I always wanted to live in a rural area, and so did Paula. Paula's from Robertsdale, Alabama, which is, I guess. It's the country still, kind of, but it's growing pretty fast. But she grew up in the country, and we always thought one day, we'll move back. And but her working in retail, me being in the film business, kind of was like, need to be around where all the action is. But then I had the job I have now during COVID, and we started working remotely, and we kind of took our chance. And took a big swing and moved out here, So the only criteria was rural, conservative. That was it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really, and decent schools.
Yeah.
So Ruthie could go to school. She came up in a private school,
Oh.
but
She touched on that a little bit when we did our small group over there.
yeah. Did she talk about Waldorf?
Yeah,
Her
yeah, she
Waldorf
did. She did. She touched about it.
Yeah.
Waldorf?
Uh-huh.
I've never heard of Waldorf.
Well, not many people have.
That's what she said. That's exactly what she said.
It's not very popular. Now, I will say we're very blessed. I mean, it did wonders for her. And I think it puts out good kids. Now, you know, it teaches a lot of stuff I wouldn't agree with now.
Oh.
And, you know, definitely not a Jesus-centered place, but
Right.
it's full of sweethearts and sweet people. And she had the best experience. And I wouldn't change that. I would change some of the things I taught her, but I wouldn't change anything that went on there at that school. Now, you know, it probably, when everything got weird during COVID, like a lot of places, I think I'm just gonna say I think it was our perfect time to change things up. You know, I think she had gotten everything she could there. Plus, it ends at 8th grade anyway, unless you want to move to Atlanta or something and go to one that has a high school. But I wanted her to have a regular high school experience, just to see if she likes it. You know, homecoming, football games, that type of stuff. So yeah, I don't know how I got over there or what I skipped over. But you know, I guess that segues into where does Jesus come into all this, right?
Yeah.
So that's just as much a winding road as any of the other stories about my life. The most consistent thing in my life is inconsistency. So it's like, you know, first and foremost, my grandmama was the most Jesus loving person, and I'm just so thankful for her. She always taught us about Jesus, and I was always around her when they were the ones who lived in Westover. And even when we lived in Pleasant Grove, where my parents were together and stuff, and then we actually lived there, we were always there. Me and my cousins are like brothers to me. So we were always around her. And she's just so godly in all the right ways.
Yeah.
Little did I know how right then, you know. But you could hear her from outside. You could hear her singing her hymns, and she listened to the radio all day. And all she ever listened to was preaching or gospel singing. That's it, ever. And she must have 100 notebooks full of her study notes. Now, I only remember a handful of times actually going to church. We would go to revival. But she wasn't a regular churchgoer. But she never did anything but study the Word, ever. And she was just a great, what a beautiful woman. And salt of the earth granddad to go with her.
Yeah.
You know, man of fairly few words, but, you know, taught us to hunt and fish and all those things. And when she would sing, she'd be like, he'd always say, go check on your grandmama. She burned her hand again. Because she had a real high voice, you know, beautiful. So I had her in my life. I had my two cousins who I still to this day lean on heavily for my influence, my Jesus influence. But it's such a great story and I don't know how many times as a younger person, you know, I was baptized when I was 11. Somebody else's idea, you know.
Yeah.
But I remember, God, Jesus has just been trying to get to me for so many years. and I was just so resistant to it. I remember that night being baptized when I walked behind the podium at the church, and I got this feeling like almost disabling for a minute, and I just remember like, was that God speaking to me or something? Oh well, whatever, you know. I'll just run away from that. And then years later, my other cousin, who was just an anointed person, and at this time he was in the military, and he was, I mean, he's got stories about knocking people down and stuff. Like he was having some crazy get-togethers on the base, you know, and even the other day he was telling me, I want to get back there, buddy. Like, you know, I was full of it, man.
Yeah.
You know, and he would tell me about all these experiences he would have where Jesus was working through him in some amazing ways, and he. I lost my train of thought. Y'all help me. What was I saying?
Knocking people over and having some great meetings.
So anyway, these are the people in my life that. He did. He told me in 1990, and at night in 1990, I was a urchin, man. You know, like I wasn't presentable to it. I rode a skateboard, which doesn't make you unpresentable, but
Right.
I was, you know, embracing some of the less awesome parts of that lifestyle that didn't purely, you know, concentrate on the athletic aspects of it. I was living over there in that trailer. We had the ramp. I was partying a lot, and he's like, "You're gonna speak about Jesus to a bunch of people one day." And I was like, "You're wrong about that." He's like, "No, I'm not." You know, like that's all I got for you, but
Yeah.
keep it in mind. I blew that off.
Of course.
And so, you know, I was gonna say, just my walk with Jesus. I for so many years I was so resistant to fully surrendering to Jesus, and it really, you know, I've had Pastor Derry pray over me for this. Like, man, just the regret of being 52 years old and thinking of all the time that I don't want to call it wasted, because all roads lead to here, and I didn't totally mess up my life. I have a beautiful family, and you know, even at my most lukewarm, I realize the importance of being loyal to my wife, and you know, being a servant to my family and keeping them together. So got that, you know, and I always had this family, even though my immediate family was kind of, you know, messed up. Like I said, my dad, if he didn't teach me anything, he taught me how to love people. He was full of love. And yeah, he used to take me to biker bars. You know, I would go to crazy places, but the thing that always stuck with me is like he wanted me there with him. At least the worst thing that, you know, with my mom relationship was like she didn't want me. That made me feel worse than anything. So I was already, it's like, you know, let's go, Dad. And he's like, let's go. We're going to be partying at some weird person's house back in the woods. And there's going to be a lot of people you don't know, really intoxicated. But let's go. You know, of course he didn't say all that. But
Right.
that was the reality of that, you know. The kids' room. Ask any kid that came up with partying parents about the kids' room. Like, and of course we didn't have phones. Had to be a TV. There would always be a weird room with some other weird kids in it. And they'd be like, this is where the kids are hanging out while we all get wasted out here and listen to Eric Clapton or whatever. And so, you know, you'd have to be like, hey, you know, you're picking your nose. Okay, that's cool. You know, or just whatever. Like, I got to stay in this room. When are we leaving? You know?
Yeah.
So, but my dad always wanted me with him. And that always gave me a sense of being special to him. So, so blah, blah, blah. you know, through my teenage years, I was going to say when I was a younger man, I would listen to sermons. I would gave my life to Jesus 10 times, you know, but whatever it is about me, I just I would never fully surrender to Jesus. I loved, and I think a lot of it is, trying to escape the hard parts about dealing with my mom issues and all that, which affects you so incredibly much, even as a grown up. Like just all the ways that'll weave itself into your psyche, and unless somebody points it out to you, you'll miss it, and you'll just be messed up. And you don't like it when anybody points it out to you either. It's not fun. But this fear of abandonment, you know, lack of self worth, and through all that, and whatever else set of circumstances, I was just a guy who I liked to take the path of least resistance, man. You know, like let's just have a good time.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, whatever comes up, comes up. I would go to Key West between shoots and go down there and party, sleep on the floor, do whatever. I
Yeah.
I would sail around on boats. I knew guys who were captains of boats,
That's pretty cool.
and I was just all. But I was it. It was cool, but it was. I think it was the wrong medicine.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was taking the wrong medicine. And I had this sense of it, like I want to just I don't want to be connected to anything, and I didn't think God was going to give me a family. In my 20s, I was like, that's just not happening. And since I didn't have a biblical grasp on the importance of marriage, then to me it was just like a throwaway idea. I mean, if it happens, it happens. If not, no big deal. I'll just, keep on, doing my thing. And and so because I had that attitude, I didn't set myself up. You know how like you probably have done this, like when you don't have before y'all met,
Mhm.
you're still preparing your life for your family,
Yeah.
right? Like I was not, because I wasn't gonna have one,
Yeah.
So I was just living hand to mouth, partying, running around. I got on a boat in New York, boated it down to Key West, almost died a few times. I circled the country in a car, sleeping in the car like 3 times. State parks, cars, hostels, doing that thing. Um, just anything but anchoring myself down and thinking about what was to come. Because as far as I was concerned, my 20s were going to be how it stayed, because I didn't deserve a family, and I wasn't close enough to Jesus to pray about it and let him tell me, yes, I will give you these things if you align yourself correctly to receive it. And so, and then even there was even times when I claimed to be an atheist, but I now know I never was. And this is worse. I think this is worse than being an atheist,
Oh.
because I was saying that to separate myself from the work I needed to do to get to surrender to Jesus, which is denying Jesus. So I wasn't just not believing it, I was denying Jesus. I say that with a big smile on my face, but it's horrifying to me. Um, so I even went through a period where I was like, I don't know. And then I was on that boat from New York to Key West, right? And boy, we had done some partying, but nothing will strip you down like being like 50 miles offshore for 3 weeks, with like the only action you get is almost dying from either running into a big cargo ship or a hurricane style. So we pull out of New York, and we immediately 3 hurricanes formed in the Atlantic, and about 40 hours later, we barely got into Trump Marina in New Jersey. We stayed there till those settled down, and then we did a stint from there to North Carolina. And man, did we almost die on that one, trying to get in. It's the shipwreck, coast there in North Carolina. And then from there on down to Key West. And, but there was one time. So those storms on a sailboat, you're barely moving.
Yeah.
It's maddening. They will follow you. You go in the same speed as a storm. So they'll stay with you forever. Like you never get out of it. And there's a rule on that boat. This was not a nice boat. This is like driving a NASCAR. It was a racing yacht.
Oh.
So it's stripped down, no luxuries, nothing to make you comfortable, only about weight and speed, right? So I say it's kind of like driving a NASCAR across the country.
Oh.
So there was a rule 2 up, 3 down. There were 5 of us on the boat. There always had to be 2 people up. So, because you can't let down your guard for a second. As weird as it seems, if you let down your guard for an hour on a sailboat, you're probably going to get run into by one of those big cargo ships. They're everywhere. And you're going to be on the trajectory with one. So every 15 minutes, you got to, make sure everything is cool. And no matter how bad the weather gets, somebody's got to be up top.
Yeah.
So we got into a lightning storm. So we've got a 40-foot lightning rod up, a prop in the water where lightning will run from the water up the prop to the wheel. So you got to wear those dishwashing gloves, on the wheel.
God.
And I sat there. This is we're back in. This is probably 1998. So we're still. I'm like 28 years old or something. So at this point, we get hit with, I'm not exaggerating, probably in the whole time that storm followed us, 4,000 bolts of lightning coming down. I don't know. It's uncountable. And it went on for hours and hours and hours and hours, and I'm sitting on the boat with the 40-foot lightning rod in the air. So that's when Jesus cracked me for just a little bit, though, because I was still just like, I'm not doing it, Jesus. That's when I said, okay, I'm gonna stop pretending I don't believe in God, because dude,
Yeah.
I don't think science can explain why we didn't get hit with lightning then. That had to be a blessing. In my mind, I was like, that was God. There's no way to put a 40-foot lightning rod up and float with a lightning storm for 15 hours and not get hit by lightning. Like, it just seemed crazy to me. And I was like, that had to be divine, So then, it was so funny, though, at that point in life, I had to come out as a believer.
Right.
But I was still, couldn't possibly be more lukewarm, though. That was the smallest amount of a decision, just that's all I'm doing, though, is going to start believing in God. Or saying, like I said, I never didn't believe in God. I thought professing that I didn't would make it easier to ignore what I needed to be doing or whatever, the walk I needed to be on.
Right.
So, but either way, I remember having, friends go like, man, long, drawn out conversations that were heated of them saying, you can't do this. It's almost like if we knew somebody who said, I'm leaving the faith, I just decided I don't believe in Jesus anymore, we would be like, you can't do that, dude. We have to have a serious conversation.
Right.
I'm going to attach myself to you, and you're not going anywhere.
That's not a decision I'm just going to sit here and let you make and walk away.
Right.
We're going to talk about this extensively.
All night.
Yeah.
And so that the other way around would happen to me sometimes. Like, you
Mm.
can't do this. I was like, it's done. Like, but to like I said, the most incredibly lukewarm spot. Um, and so then, I guess about a little while later, then I just went on kind of being a partying guy who believed in God. Like, it didn't change much of my life.
Yeah.
Not going to church, and not that church in the lukewarm sense is even that important. I think church becomes much more important when it becomes
True. Yeah.
the big C, it becomes your people. Um, so then I got into this. Now, through this whole time, I had my two cousins. They're called Shannon and Brandon. They're like my brothers.
I have cousins named Shannon
And
and Brandon.
they always, they have been spirit led their whole lives since they were teenagers.
Oh, they aren't.
And they were always there
Mhm.
saying, bro, there's more to this, but also not just loving me unconditionally
Yeah.
and showing that Jesus love, that they never condemn me. They never, God, the poor things. I mean, they would just look at me and go, I love you, man.
Yeah.
I want this for you. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Like,
Sure.
it just had to, I love them so much. I'm so appreciative. And I love my whole family, but those two just never gave up. And they've always been the ones, the earthly ones chasing me for Jesus, and still are. They're such lovely people, and I mean, they never put me in another category when I was lukewarm. I was always the top of their list.
Mhm.
And so I spent a lot of years then. Although, I would hook up with them and go to places where people were dropping out from, being filled with the Holy Spirit. But then I go right back to, I was so hard headed. Like, the Lord would show me the possibilities,
Yeah.
and I would always go, like, that's not for me, that's for them.
Yeah.
I mean, there was this place called The Basement. Have you ever heard about this place?
Mm-mm.
Again, it's a little before y'all's time, but it was. This is getting up into like 2010, 2009. This kid in Birmingham started having a prayer group in his basement. And it became one of the biggest youth movements of the time until we were going to, it took over a big church. And then I went there, and yeah, kids were dropping out, like, and being taken over by the Holy Spirit, falling out, speaking in tongues, and I didn't even think that was weird, but I wasn't gonna be all in,
Right. Right.
So I'd say, see you later, and then, okay, so blah blah blah. I started going to church,
Yeah.
but I was still in this mindset, like, had very liberal viewpoints. Like, okay, I'll go to church, but I'm not going to profess that I feel like that I think Jesus is the only way to God. Because I also traveled the world.
Mm.
I've been, to Australia, Egypt, all over the Caribbean, down to Mexico, all over these places where I've just had. I mean, if you go into all that stuff with the right state of mind, it's great.
Mhm.
But to me, I was way too led by these other cultures. Like, well, I'm not going to say these people are separated from God, just because they're this, or this,
Yeah.
And then, so then when I went to church, oddly enough, Paula was saying, I want to go to church. And she was raised a Methodist, good Methodist girl. And she knows when you're supposed to sit down and stand up and what you're supposed to say back to the preacher when they say something. I was always like, what am I supposed to say?
Where's the script?
And so we went to a church and started going kind of regularly. But I still had my dukes up about it all.
Course, yeah.
And also, too, it was an insanely liberal church with full of beautiful, wonderful people that, I love. And they're such good-hearted people.
Mm-hmm.
But, as we all know, biblical is biblical.
Right.
And
the United Methodist isn't united anymore.
they're not united. And again, I'm not trying to. I've met just the most wonderful, hardworking, hands and feet of Jesus people. Mm-hmm. They feed the community. The church I went to was in the hood. I mean, Eastlake in Birmingham, the hood, dude. Like you could hear gunshots going off, and they feed these kids. They bring them in. The whole community's invited. I'm talking. They do good work. So I'm not trying to, say anything bad about these people. And at the time it fit. It was right up my alley, and went there for a good while, but then slowly, I started. I got a little taste of Church of the Highlands. And I was like, I kind of like, I like this now.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Shannon and Brandon go to Church of the Highlands.
Mm-hmm.
And Paula wanted to be, Methodist. And I started kind of saying, like, hey, can we maybe, check this out some? And she's like, I don't want. And I was saying the same thing. I don't want to go get in a traffic jam to go to church. They got to have people, directing traffic. I was like, that's not my idea. I was also one of these guys who's like, I find, my church is in the woods. I'll go to the woods.
Go to the woods.
I'm going to church in the woods. I get what you're saying, but you're not at church.
Right.
But that was still me too. So we were sporadically going to this very, very lovely, very liberal United Methodist Church, which I am still friends with people there, and I love. They're just the most amazing, wonderful people. The pastor there, just full of love, hands and feet, wonderful people. But slowly, I started looking for a little different situation, maybe.
Right.
And the whole time I got Shannon and Brandon, leading me, and and this whole time I'd be a prayer. I was always a prayer. Come on, let's pray about this and stuff. Love talking to Jesus. Love praying for people. Love getting the crowd together and praying. And but I was getting a little more serious about it, but still keeping that distance between me and Jesus, and in case, he wanted me to do anything too crazy, And I guess around 2016, 17, I started really changing a lot, and I started dropping a lot of my liberal beliefs. I think it, really. I mean, it's a shame to have to admit that a social thing would be the cue, but like when Trump got elected president, I wasn't necessarily like jumping up and down about it in 16, but I was like, okay, isn't the world crazy? Okay, whatever. But to me, that took off. That showed me a lot the way things kind of went south really fast, and how folks who seemed, in my opinion, now I say now I'm real conservative now. I would never go back to my most harmless form of liberal that I was. But the road that it was taking me down, I would never would have imagined where liberalism was headed. You know, and so that's when we first started getting a peek of like, oh my goodness gracious, wow, this is just spun out like crazy. And so I guess I kind of got what you would some people call red pilled. You know, like I started realizing, oh, I don't. I kind of like this conservative type stuff, you know, and you know, just kind of I don't know. I just changed,
Yeah.
you know, and I like I said, even though I feel like whatever version of liberal was in 1995, you know, would now be considered an extreme right winger, I guess.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't even go back to that version of liberal that I was then, you know. So whatever happened, I'm happy. It kind of knocked down those walls for me and made me realize, well, I think my values are more aligned over here. Not, and I'm not really big on the team thing. I do like to see gray and kind of look, you know, around. You know, it's always been my way to kind of look around the corners and see what's going on. But that doesn't always work out great either, right? Boundaries are important too. So, you know, I spent my whole life with no boundaries at all, like in humor, in lifestyle. What again? I remember this is hilarious. I used to have on my profile, I guess it was Instagram or whatever. I called myself a what did I call myself? It was something a hedonist, you know. Like
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah.
had that whole thing. If you're not hurting anybody, you're cool, man. You know.
Oh.
And you know, I still believe that about people, but I don't believe that about myself.
Right.
You know, like I got no beef with anybody who's not hurting anybody. But if you're asking me if you're on the right track, if that's all your whole theory, I'm going to say I don't believe you are.
Right.
You know. Oh, primal hedonist. That was I'm a primal hedonist. Yeah. And I remember poor Brandon going like, oh, what does that mean? You know. I'm like,
Yeah.
you know, I kind of explained it to him. He's like, okay. You know, because I'll add that on to all the prayers I've already got for you. But so anyway,
Yeah.
and I don't want to. I also don't want to. I guess it has to be at the same time. When I started getting a little more conservative views, I started also, you know, following. Thinking, I think I want to get into a more conservative version of church. You know, because you know there's some big ideas between different churches that I just started not jiving with, and I could no longer accept. Some of the big issues we're all familiar with.
Yeah.
And things I had before in my life gone along with because it's nice and it's what some liberal women want to hear from you. And I guess I can't say I didn't believe those things, but at this time I'm starting to go like, and that's a big one. When you're starting to say, I don't quite believe in the women's health type, what y'all are calling women's health type stuff anymore.
Yeah.
That's a big one
That is.
with that crowd, and then it just don't go over what. So you're taking a big swing when you say, you know what, I'm just going to go on ahead and say I don't think that's the right thing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And it has, big implications, socially and all that.
Yeah, I went to a coffee shop in Kentucky, and there were pins and cards and buttons, and they all said something like, abortion is health care. And I'm like, no.
Right. Yeah. And I so know how you can. I'm so familiar with that world and those people, and I gotta keep saying I love those folks. But that to me is, you know, I was fooled, and I think that's, I just think it's wrong.
Yeah.
And it's hard. It was hard for me to keep saying, you know, not, and I don't shout it from the mountaintops or anything, but it got really hard for me to keep being in a group at church that would also believe in that. To me, that's a big
red flag, huh?
big one.
Yeah.
So I started pulling away, over to Church of the Highlands style, or Church of the Highlands.
Right.
And then, so I'm Paula, I'm like, come on, baby, come on, let's go. And which is funny because years previous, she had to beg me to go to the Methodist church,
Right.
and now I'm saying, like, let's go deeper. Come on,
Yeah.
and again, just not an immediate thing, and not something. I don't talk about her walk. That's
Right.
her testimony. But I'm involved in it because it's part of mine. She was my wife, and it's important that you're on the same page.
Oh yeah,
with your
absolutely.
wife.
Detrimental even.
And we all know that if the man leads, a lot of times the family will follow.
Oh yeah.
And so I just started. I had to say, look, I'm just not with this real liberal church stuff anymore. I want to go deeper, and I've just got to tell you, I'm just not feeling all those issues. I'm feeling like I'm getting on the other side of that real heavy, and so that was like 17, I guess. And then I started watching more podcasts and actually reading my Bible a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
And then it took, 18. So then, yeah, we got a little more serious about it. I started going to a small group here and there, but still not attending church regularly. But like Brandon, he would run a small group out of his house. So I was like, okay, I'll do that one.
Yeah.
I just got to go over there, and again, I'm starting to be counseled by him because I'm accepting it more. So I'm going, hey man, how about this? How do I deal with this? How do I deal with that? And so he's taking that invitation to lead me a little deeper into the Word.
Right.
So is Shannon. Shannon, they're funny. They're brothers and they're best friends. They're inseparable, even at this age. In our 50s.
Yeah.
Shannon's wild. He runs an excavating business. He's hunting, fishing, yeah. And Brandon's an orthodontist. He's a civic leader.
Wow.
Pillar of the community.
Right. Polar opposites.
Well, in a way, but also just perfect for each other.
Yeah, yeah.
And I needed both of them. Their personalities, just like they are, they're just perfect. I just love them so much, and I'm so thankful for them. I mean, we will just cry when we see each other. We love each other so much. And we see each other fairly often. It's it's not like we've been separated for years.
Yeah.
So then, by the time 2020 happened, and we all know what went on there, the world went crazy.
Yeah.
And at that point, I had an opportunity to say, let's take this swing. Let's go. And I knew I just wanted to live in a more conservative community, and I wanted to be rural. I wanted to get back in the country.
Yeah.
I like hunting and fishing. I wanted to hunt, and little did I know, people just don't let you hunt on their property.
Right.
They frown on that. So I've got a couple of buddies. I've made a couple of friends.
That's good.
So anyway, we move out here in 2000, I think, and from 17 to 2000, I mean, yeah, from like 17 to 21, we were looking at houses. We would drive, all our weekends would be spent driving out to the rural areas, looking around for where we wanted to be. And in 17, it was kind of a dream because I had gotten in debt to the IRS and I had all kinds of rigmarole going on. And it was just not, I wasn't buying a house in 17,
Right,
but we
yeah.
were looking, we were having faith, right? And so it took me, my finances were in such shambles because as a freelancer, you're like, I don't know how much money I'm going to make. Every plan, every budget plan starts with you take how much money you make and then you do this. It's like, well, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
It varies, and a lot of times it's not good, So, I remember though I had been behind on my mortgage for so many years. And as long as you don't go 3, they won't take your house. But your credit is just tanked,
Oh,
man.
yeah.
But I was like, okay, whatever with the credit, as long as I can just hold on to the house. And so I knew I had to go a year without a late payment. So I had to catch up, then go a year without a late payment, and then get a down payment, all this.
Yeah.
So that took until 2021. And, and this starts my more on fire testimony. I'm still pretty lukewarm at this. Saying I went conservative,
Yeah.
that was more social.
Okay.
Not so much biblical, right? So, but I'm putting the importance of those beliefs up high, but I'm
Yeah.
still not cannonballing into the pool, right? And I tell people now, this is where this part of my story starts, where I believe 100% the Lord put us here to be in this church.
That's awesome.
No doubt. Because we could have gone anywhere. We were looking all over the place. We could have ended up in Blount County. We could have ended up in Dora. We could have gone, we were just looking everywhere. The only thing was rural and affordable.
Plus, Coleman County does have an abundance of churches.
Yes. And so there was no particular reason for us to say Coleman's the place. Now, I did have one cousin up here who I love dearly. He owns Rock Creek Marina.
Oh, okay.
And he's been along with my 2 other cousins, my best friends for my whole life, So I had him, and we first almost settled up in off of 222, a little closer to the lake. And again, the Lord saved me so many times. The Lord snatched that one from me. Thank goodness, because it was way too far from work, And at the time we were working remote, but now I have to go. They changed it. I have to go 2 days a week, which is still a blessing.
Currently?
Yeah.
Okay.
But we weren't very familiar with how inconvenient it is to live in a super rural area, and how much driving it would take to keep the lifestyle that we had to keep, not wanted, but Paula works in Hoover.
Oh,
She goes to Hoover 3 days a week still,
Oh, golly.
So, thankfully, that one was yanked from us. And so I tell people it's almost like we just threw a dart and said, okay, Coleman County, And this little house down here, 22 minutes from here, came up. And, there's some things we didn't love about it, but there were a lot of things we did. And thankfully, too, another thing, before interest rates went up, the interest rates were still down in the 3s,
Yeah.
And we were like, you know what? I guess we'll move there. It's as good as anywhere else. It's close to Sammy, my cousin. And I will say, though, one thing about Coleman, we used to come here during COVID to do everything, because it wasn't. People were still doing stuff. So yay, the strawberry festival. Like, people are actually doing it, and there's like no protests and nobody has
Yeah.
on mask. And not that I'm killing everybody about the mask or whatever, but I was getting pretty done with seeing it like outside and stuff.
I basically got fired for not wearing a mask on top of a roof that was 120 degrees.
See, those are the kind of things that will make you tired of
Ridiculous.
stuff,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, and Coleman seemed to never like play the game totally.
Yeah,
You know,
I never had a problem with masks in Coleman.
we were out here like partying. We would drive up for everything going on.
COVID did not exist
Oktoberfest
around here.
So
And I loved it. Golly,
Yeah.
I was so happy for it. We didn't shut down. I'm pretty sure we still had services here on campus, didn't we? Well,
I wasn't
you
going
weren't here. Were you going? You weren't here.
No, I
by
wasn't
the
here
time.
yet. I
I'm
wouldn't
pretty
get
sure
here
that
till-
we didn't, because there were a lot of churches that did go remote, but they were in like the bigger cities. I'm pretty sure we stayed on campus or in person or whatever you want to call it. We stayed open.
Yeah.
So
I know a lot of
Yeah.
people. I did watch some. Well, I'll get to this part, but I watched a lot of Daystar sermons.
yeah.
Before I decided to come here. So if you're ready for me to proceed, I will.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, okay, so now we live down the road. We moved up here, and we were totally like, I didn't even know how much of a faith move it was, because even at that time, I was still really lukewarm, so I wasn't like praying about it. Is this the right thing? I do my quick Jesus, please give us a good place to live, But I wasn't like in conversation with the Lord about what I need to do, the steps I need to take. And so many times He's been like, "It's okay, buddy. There you go."
I got you.
Again, I know your heart, and I know you didn't ask for it. I know you're stupid. So here you go. Like, try this time to get a little traction. I'm giving you, and I'm still like, whatever. And so we were here. We moved in, and I was like, is this the biggest mistake I've ever made? My life was easy in Birmingham. My mortgage was $850 a month. Lived in the hood, but it was $850 a month.
Yeah.
With the new refi, I could have probably got that down to about $550.
Yeah.
And so tripled the value of what I owe moving up here.
Yeah.
And then no friends. I was lonely. And I was just like, wow, was this right? And again, if I had just been talking to Jesus more about it, I would have known it was.
Yeah.
But I wasn't doing that work, And we loved being in the country. That I was sure of. But I just kept having this feeling, is this the right move? Did I do the right thing for Ruthie?
Mm-hmm.
I pulled her out of everything she knew and put her in Cold Springs. Like, she was raised in the city,
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's a little art girl.
Mm-hmm.
She is the most amazing person. She has thrived so much. And so here I am out here. I've got a family that I have led lukewarm at best. That's the best I can say about my spiritual leadership of the family. Again, I've taught Ruthie to be a good person. I've taught her that, Jesus is real. You should say your prayers. That, me and Paula both have done that, But still, just, y'all know the levels. So here we are, and our neighbors, we moved in December, I think it was December 29th, 2021. And it was snowing, it was cold. I never dealt with a heat pump before. What is wrong with these things? We had gas in the city.
Yeah.
It's cold up here. What did I do? Is this house okay? Is it just so many, because I wasn't getting my order, I wasn't talking to Jesus. So I was depending on myself to know if everything was okay. And you just can't do that,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't work out.
Not at all.
So all this doubt, confusion, I don't know if. Well, we're here now. This is the way it's going to be, and so then our neighbors come Easter. We definitely go on Easter. We go to church a little more than that, but for sure Easter, Christmas, yeah. Our neighbors said, "Well, we go to this place, Daystar." Actually, it's like we go to this place called Daystar Road. So I like that guy, man. He's just cool. The preacher up there is cool.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I guess we'll try it. So we'll go. We went with them.
Yeah.
And we loved it, but it was Easter, so you don't get a real good sense of what the church is actually like during
You got
Easter,
the biggest service of the year.
It's big. Plus, you don't get the nuts and bolts message.
Right.
It's a great message. Obviously, our whole faith,
Right.
kind of revolves around it. But it's not those painful dig deep type things. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I really like that guy too. And I did know enough to know not to go to a church for any reason except the pastor.
Right.
And but still, most of 21, we were like kind of just phoning it in. We came here a few times. And then, okay, so the big, are you guys bored yet? Sorry. I should have told you guys. I never stop talking.
It's all good.
You probably knew that about me.
Yeah. Hey, if anything, this can be 2 episodes.
I was born to run my mouth.
I don't know how long we go, but we'll find out.
7:30.
If anybody's got a really high-paying job that I can just run my mouth, let me know. So
this is the perfect gig.
Ruthie, I know podcasting. Well, I used to have a podcast, and it can't really be out there now with the new Ned. Oh boy, I love some naughty humor. But I do often think about it, about getting into it with the new version of Ned, the right version. So anyway, still fairly lukewarm, but I'm getting amped up. I started reading my Bible. I'm starting to watch more sermons. We're coming to church a little more, but still not sitting in the back, not really. And I love you backsitters. I say hey to y'all every Sunday. Love you guys. Keep coming and sitting in the back. We love you.
Yes, please, yeah.
But not integrating myself as much as I have realized I love doing. So, Ruthie's in a summer camp, and it's an Episcopalian summer camp, and she loves it. It's down in Fairhope, Alabama.
Okay.
And she's really loving it there. And again, it's Episcopalian. It's a bit. They have services. They
have services.
They have services. And you know what? I'm not even gonna make a judgment. I didn't go there. I don't know. I never spent one night at the camp.
Yeah.
So whatever. But I just gotta believe they're not having a lot of praise and worship sessions, right?
Right.
So we had this crazy. I guess that was 23. I feel like it's been so much longer. Anyway, I go pick Ruthie up, and I'm starting to get real convicted about, like, what are you doing here? Are you with Jesus? Are you without Jesus? Are you just gonna keep your little toe in the pond? What's going on? And I'm still just being resistant. Like, I'll do it exactly like I want to.
Right.
And which means doing what I want when I want, and thinking about Jesus when it's convenient, and when it makes me feel good.
Yeah.
So, but I picked Ruthie. We had this crazy summer where I just couldn't get Ruthie to all her stuff hardly. And here comes Brandon, my cousin.
Yeah.
Hey, I want Ruthie to go to the motion conference. This thing called the motion conference.
Oh, yeah.
He said, I've already bought her the ticket. She's just got to be here. And I knew enough, at least enough, to say, yes, I'll make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And I had to leave here at like 4 in the morning and go to Fairhope and pick her up on the last day of that camp or last morning, and then drive her here by Thursday night. Motion starts Thursday night, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So isn't that when it happens? Okay, so I dropped her off at his house with about 30 minutes to spare before they had to take off and come to Motion. And I kept in touch with her the rest of the weekend, but not really. I didn't pay much attention to it. I came home and then I went back to pick her up after Motion. I went down to Hoover to Brandon's house, snatched her up, and she was on fire, dude. Oh,
that's awesome.
So, I love her so much.
We're going to have her on here.
I know, yeah. She's going to be annoyed. She was at a basketball game cheering tonight. The Lord has worked on me. I'll get emotional. Talk about Ruthie. I love her. Or Paula. So the Lord was working on me hardcore through her.
Mm-hmm.
And, man, she's like,
just like battery.
Well, we had a dead battery, but we're back now.
Yes.
I ran the camera down. Sorry, guys. I'm sure you tuned out long ago with my ramblings. Okay, so we're back.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm getting to the good stuff. So Ruthie is like on fire when she comes home from the Motion conference, and then like I don't know what it was. I know Jesus has been talking to me my whole life, and I just been deflecting, but something switched in me, and I heard clearer than ever from the Lord, bro. You gonna put that responsibility on your little girl to lead this family to Jesus, And I said, no, I'm not. From here on out, I'm in. Like it was just a light switch, like one day, and I was not my most lukewarm before that. I was heating up, but on that day. I don't think I missed a day of church since that day. And she was telling me all about it. And I was like, oh, Ruthie's done got over into the raising your hand style stuff. Like, and all of a sudden the Lord just said, don't put that on her. That's not her responsibility. That's yours. And, I told Ruthie, you know what? Let's do this. We're in it. Let's go. And I had no doubt about that being the thing to do.
Right. Right.
Again, people, it'd been a lesson that people have been trying to teach, most of all Jesus, but even my family trying for so many years. Like, dude, come on. Because I always had I was always like that. I'm a good guy. People love old Ned, So what else could you want, you know?
Right.
And then the people who knew, though, were begging me, come on, man. And who were praying, who were prophesying anointing over me. And me just popping it away as it comes, like, nope, And then but Ruthie cracked me.
That's awesome.
And
that's incredible.
She's, and she didn't say, Daddy, I need you to do this, or she was just telling me about her experience.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, it was all clear all of a sudden. Like, you need to chase after Jesus, dude. And you need to be an example for your little girl, not somebody trying to learn a lesson off of her. Not that she doesn't teach me lessons.
Right.
She does all the time. But at that moment, I just took that leadership role of spiritual leadership in the house, and I started, living my. Of course, I'm not gonna make it sound like I just told my wife like, hey, this is how things are going now.
Right.
Paula don't roll like that. But
Right, yeah.
I started doing the things that
Mm.
that I needed to do,
Yeah.
and then it started coming here, and then I was at the point like, okay, does this church fit my needs?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is this church preaching what I wanted to preach? Because I didn't know this church well. I didn't know where PJ was coming from very well. I just knew I thought he was cool. I liked the way the sermons I had heard. I liked.
Mm-hmm.
So I went and I did a deep dive on PJ's sermons on YouTube. I went back for years, just
Wow.
I must have watched 30 sermons
Yeah.
or something. And not long after we started coming every week, he preached a sermon called "What We Believe."
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's just so spirit led.
Mm-hmm.
The way these things fell in place for me. And then after that sermon, combined with all the ones I had watched before, I was like, I trust this guy.
Yeah.
This is my guy.
And this
I
was
trust him.
2023?
By this time it's
Or was it early 24?
no 23.
23, okay.
And then it was at that time when I said, this is our church,
Mm-hmm.
and we're going every week, and we're not making ourselves. It's a joy,
Yeah.
A lot of my church life, my whole life, had been like, let's go,
Mm-hmm. Get this
Now
over with.
I'm just, all of us are just can't wait for Sunday,
Yeah, it's crazy. I've been here for 3 years, going on 4. And I've watched all 3 of you and your family come in, and it feels like all of you have been here the whole time I've been here.
Mm-hmm. Same with you guys too. I know you've been here forever, but I don't remember when y'all weren't here. I think I was here a little bit before y'all, just a little bit.
I think so. You had to be.
But when y'all came on board, it was like, kind of the same thing. Like, and it's a testament to this church though, because, and I will say what. Let me not get out of line. So anyway, and this is my biggest, or one of my biggest praises. Thank you, Jesus, so much.
Amen.
I could be in the position right now as a 52-year-old man who didn't walk with the Lord right, who lost his wife and kid. Mm-hmm. Right. Not even in divorce, but I mean in faith.
Yeah.
Because I didn't show them an example. I didn't lead them correctly. So I could be in this position that I'm in all day long spiritually and be mourning so incredibly hard that they're not here with me spiritually. They could be living in my house.
Yeah.
But they could be rejecting all this.
Yeah.
Which is pretty much what I set them up for.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just so thankful that when I started walking it, the Lord just lined them up right beside me.
Yeah.
And it's the biggest blessing because we all know how anguished you would be if you thought your kid or your wife or your spouse was not walking with Jesus. That would be the version of Ned now. That would be complete anguish for me every day. And even though I deserve it, the Lord didn't make me walk through that because He loves us. And He loves them. He let them come, I'm glad He didn't have to use my, wife and kids' life as an example to teach me a lesson, So we all just lined up. Me and my wife lined up, dude. Like, that's
Beautiful.
so wonderful. And so, of course, we started doing the small groups and stuff, and I don't know. So that's where we are. But, I want to say about the church, though, like, it's the exact church, and I don't mean the building, I mean the people.
Of course.
This is the exact place I needed because I mean, I got no big delusions about myself. You know, I'm like a cartoon character. I come in, you know, I'm a little bit loud. I'm a little goofy. You know, I'm oddly nice. It throws people off. They're like, why is that guy so sweet? What does he want? Like, and you
What does he
know,
want?
like, and I'm just, you know, how many places have not embraced that about me, you know, and these people, y'all, everybody has been like, oh, I love that dude.
Yeah.
Like, you know, he's awesome.
Mhm.
I'm like, really? All these people like me, you know? They can see the value in my my heart, you know?
Mhm.
And I guess it's not, you know, a lot of places that's not so valuable,
Right.
right? And then I think the first small group I did was Revelation. That was a little bit big for your first small group.
I think wasn't Miss Bonnie's husband that did that?
Mine was John Best,
Oh.
and
Oh, I heard about that one too.
who
I heard that was so good.
who knows
I
the
wasn't
word,
part of it,
man.
but I've heard.
And then we did a marriage small group with Monty and Kimberly Bridgewater, and oh, I remember telling, and this is what I love. I was saying the other night because we went through Freedom last week, and I was trying to explain to some friends about it, and I was like, find you some friends who can be laying on the floor next to you with your faces touching and your cheeks both feeling each other's tears running down it as you pray over each other. Get you one of those.
Yeah.
Come on, you know. And I had Monty Bridgewater, like I told him, you're gonna be my friend, you know. And he's like, really? And I'm like, yeah, man. Like, I just know it. You got, like, you can, I'm not gonna let you off the hook. You
Yeah.
know. And sure enough, we're just great friends, and I love that man. I love Kimberly so much, and but everybody here just welcomed us like we'd never been welcomed before. No too cool for school. No, you know, I never felt like there were any people were acting, you know.
Yeah.
Like, I can't stand social theater. It's one of my
Yeah,
worst.
yeah.
It's one of the things I hate the most.
Absolutely.
And we got to admit that, you know, the church can be full of that.
Oh yeah.
And this place is not like other places.
Exactly.
And it's exactly what I needed to pull me into a more spirit-led life, a fully spirit-led life.
Yeah.
And you know, it just keeps giving, like this decision to move here. And, you know, that's part, you know, the Lord plopped us down right here to be in this church, to meet the Godfreys.
Oh gosh.
Love them. Like,
They know the
I've known him my
Godfreys.
whole life.
I know. Like, Chris,
The first time I met Chris, he was yelling at me in. we met in Belk, and we both just so happened to go into the changing rooms, and he was yelling at me from changing room to changing room as I was changing my pants to try some on. He was yelling at me about their family, and I was like,
oh, they're a good family.
This is a great first impression.
that me and that boy are like this. I spend more time with him than any. I love him. He's like my best buddy up here, and we are getting closer every day, you know. But Ruthie works there, you know, so I get my Saturday mornings with him. I'll go drop her off, even if she drives. I'll still go drop her off because I get my visit time with
Right,
kids.
yeah.
And of course, there's always a little benefit of like some pork belly or something that just came off the stove or something. And then I'll go pick her up and we'll visit. And, you know, Lucas and his family will hook up with us sometimes. And we just have, I know a couple months ago, we all ended up there at closing time. And we just sat down and had like a Thanksgiving meal with the Eddings and us and just the greatest time. And but Chris, I didn't know him from the church. I knew he was building a barbecue restaurant. And so I was so excited because we live out there in like south of Bremen. Like it's called Prospect Mountain.
Yeah.
It's just there's nothing there, which is what I wanted, but there's nowhere to go eat.
Yeah.
And
I lived on top of Prospect Mountain. That's where I moved to when I moved out of my parents' house the first time.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Why are you shaking your head?
Because I lived on top.
It's windy.
So it's
It's
windy, cold, and nothing's close.
No,
There's nothing nearby.
no.
So
Which is what I asked for.
yeah.
You know?
But it was my first experience living outside of my parents' house, and I was still working at Zaxby's minimum wage, paying bills. So like it was just terrible all
You
around.
have to have a good heating system. I was
Yeah.
like, what is wrong up here? The wind never stops blowing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like 10 degrees colder than it is in other
Yep,
parts of the
yeah,
county.
yeah,
You know?
it was
And here I've got
not
I've got an HVAC system that hope it keeps going.
I had
you know?
window units. I
Window-
lived in a tiny trailer. Yeah, window units. It was cold in the winter, and it stayed that way at all times.
I can empathize. I lived in the trailer I told you about on my family's property. At one point, the only source of heat I had was an electric blanket.
Oh,
And so I would take it into the living room and sit there, then plug it in the
Yeah.
bedroom. I had one extension cord.
like.
The place didn't even have electricity. I had run an extension cord in from the pole outside,
Oh my god!
so I could pick a thing. You
Yeah.
know, like you can plug in one thing. You know, but there was not even really a front door on it. So a space heater wouldn't do you any good.
No.
You know? So I just had this electric blanket I would take to bed and then to the couch or whatever. Crazy.
Dang.
But
Yeah.
so I would drive by, I started seeing EG's restaurant come up. Like, I'm putting a barbecue restaurant right there, right there. Well, I don't. That seems crazy, but I'm glad. And so they started. Facebook friended them, and then I was so excited just about the barbecue restaurant. I started I would throw out their Facebook post and share it. And then on day one that they open, I'm there. And little did I know, this guy who has my heart, is the one opening this restaurant.
Yeah.
And my, up there running my mouth, he just latched right on and started running his mouth back. You know, I was like, I think this dude likes me. I think he might be my friend one day. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
Because he would come out and sit down and talk because he does that with everybody. He's just a sweet guy.
Yeah.
And he's friendly.
and a little loony.
Say what?
And a little loony.
He's loony, which matches up with me perfectly.
Yeah.
I'm never gonna get the real cool friends, like the cool I call them too cool for school. Like if you're too cool to be a little goofy, yeah, we're not gonna.
Right.
Yeah, it's just not gonna work out for us.
Gotta be goofy.
Yeah. So before you know it, I'm going up there all the time, and we just developed a great friendship, and I fell in love with his family, and then they hired Ruthie to work there, and they're like family to us. I love them so much, and I'm so thankful for them. Like this Saturday, I had again, Ruthie has a car, but I was like, I'm going to drive you because I'll come pick you up. And we took we had a family in from overseas Friday. And, of course, they're always looking for barbecue when they come home. Took them to EG's. Blew her away. Then, my best buddy from Birmingham, he's like, hey, man, come check out that barbecue restaurant you've been talking about. So brought them up Saturday. And then Saturday night, I was back up there after they left to get Ruthie. And we sat there. We were laughing so hard. We had tears streaming. We were just having the greatest time, And again, that's another guy I can look at and say, I love you, And he's like, I love you too, And I've gone way too much of my life where people, withdraw when you say that, and I've always been that guy, lukewarm, not lukewarm, whatever. I'm that dude who's like, I love you, And people are like, okay. Yeah. Like, all right, dude. Yeah, I like you a good bit as well. You know.
I like you a good bit as well. Is crazy.
So, and I've always been that guy. Like, stop with all the pretending about emotions. Let's just get real. And again, until I came here, it didn't always pay off for me great. Now, I'm not going to say there aren't people out there who appreciated my, my personality or whatever, but not in large numbers, for sure. And but when I came here and everybody just, not that they're particularly crazy about my personality, but they just accept you as you are, come as you are, and yeah, if you're like a goofy cartoon character guy, come on, can you operate a camera?
Yeah.
So yeah, we've been blessed with the friendship of the Godfreys, the Bridgewaters, and everybody else here too. Those are the people we've grown closest to. Monty Bridgewater, he's so anointed.
Yeah.
That dude, and he knows my deep dark stuff. I always talk to people like it's really odd when pastors and spiritual advisors become your friends too, because you gotta, like, one day you'll be telling them like your deepest secrets, and then you're like, you want to grab a bite? like after freedom, come on, that's as deep as it goes, man.
Yes,
you're like,
it
so
is.
sandwich, you want
Yeah.
it's, you want to drop by and eat some potato chips? But I wouldn't trade that for anything. I did, when we moved up here, I did decide, okay, I'm going to be building a new community, obviously. And I love the community I've always had, dear to me. But if anybody new's coming into my life, they're going to be godly folks.
Yeah.
And because I've got so much to learn and so much that I'm in, and that's just where I want my influences coming from, and then again, Jesus was like, okay, here you go, sprinkle, sprinkle, like these wonderful godly people. Monty will write me just the craziest things on a Tuesday morning and say, I know this is what you're going through. I just want to tell you this, this, and this. The Lord told me, put this word on me for you. And it's not only the message, but the timing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if you were an alcoholic and you were reaching for a beer and you wrapped your hand around that beer and it had been years, but you were just done and you're about to take a sip. When your hand touches that beer, your text message shows up and it's Monty.
Yeah.
And he's like, bro, don't do it. I'm telling you, it's not worth it. Put it down, So, being blessed with all these people and you guys and all y'all, I think I don't know which one of y'all I know when I first met you, of course, it's hard to tell the difference between you. I well know your difference now.
Good.
I think it was Hannah at Motion. And I think I didn't even know you good enough to tell you that this is another thing I do. I tell people way too much stuff, and they don't know even who I am. You probably barely knew who I was at Motion, but I was like,
I knew whose
thank you
dad
for
you were.
hanging out with me. Like most
Yeah.
young ladies would be like, why is this fat dude like all up in my business trying to praise next to me and stuff, or whatever, And I was like, you're so sweet to me, even though I'm a big
I
old
thought you were
goofball.
great. I was glad I got to see all your emotion. I was like,
And then I wondered
I
what
was
you thought
actually
about
running
that
from
comment.
him.
Like, I'm gonna hang out with that dude. I'll stay here, even though there's a weird guy next to me. So, and then, people like Braxton saying, dude, I want you to be a youth leader one.
Yeah.
You gotta be kidding, right? Drew comes to my house when my dad was sick. He hadn't passed yet. And here's like this. What is Drew? 24, maybe.
Yeah,
think so,
something
yeah.
around there.
He's a little bitty baby. I love that boy so much. And he's just he's so much wiser than me. I'm 52. And he's got such a godly heart. I just adore him and love him, and Anna Grace too. Um, CJ and Ashley, everybody, like, it's just the most wonderful group of people. But, Drew comes, Ruthie's like, Drew's coming by today. And I'm like, okay, because I thought he was bringing her a piece of equipment, or they were going to talk about social media or something. And then she kept trying to tell me, but I was working. I wasn't paying attention. He's coming by to visit. And sure enough, here comes Drew like an old-timey preacher coming over because my dad's sick, and brought me a gift bag, a little plant, and sat and visited
plant?
with us, like a little plant, and a little gift bag. And he'd even asked Ruthie, what is your dad like? I had Dr. Peppers and Reese's cups in it or something. And
Nice.
I'm like, you're like a country preacher. Come by to visit the family when we're having trouble, And his heart for the kids, that boy loves the youth. He not just as a stepping stone to some other pastoral position.
Yep.
He's so in love with these children, and so it's so on his heart to guide them to Jesus, and I love that boy. We're going to go a lot longer if I sing the praises of every single person. I love everybody here so much. I'm so thankful for this church. I'm so thankful for you guys. I love y'all, and Nathan and his crazy bunch, all the production people, Blake and Trey, just everybody's been so welcoming and warm and open with us, and it's just been a great place to. The people here just make it easy to put down I call it putting down your dukes. Like you can unravel your fists, shake out your hands, put them down, and see what the Lord has in store for you here. And everybody here is going to lift you up.
Yeah.
And that's what they did for us, and it's been absolutely life-changing for me and the girls. Ruthie, I tell people, I could tell Ruthie now, like, hey, I've decided the whole Jesus thing's not for me. Like, that was a big, weird journey that I'm not going on anymore. And she'd be like, see you. Like, Ruthie's not dependent on me, for her walk. Although I take my role as leader, in that realm seriously. And I'm so, again, just thankful. Me and Ruthie are always up here together. We are always, she wants to ride together to church. She likes that we walk in here together. And we do our little Bible studies together when we can, but if we can't, we're doing them on our own, it's just, and the same things happen to Ruthie and Paula. Anytime you say we're in for it, the people in this church are ready to go with you. Just such an incredible blessing to be here, and so stupidly found this place. Just like I said, the Lord's just like, oh, I'll help you out again.
Right.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Right here.
Yeah.
There you go.
Just all you gotta do is do it now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it's,
Look at them.
that's where we're at, and I'm, I tell people too, I'm still more heart than knowledge. I can worship with the best of them. And I'm doing my best to learn the word as fast as I can, but I'm trying not to learn the word just as a academic exercise. I'm trying to, the word is the word of God.
Right.
So I try to, let it sink in. But I certainly do love having people around me who know the whole Bible word for word. Because everything you got to say, they'll be like, well, this is what Jesus said about it. So I like that. And, one day I may get there. I may not. but I'll always be working towards it.
Yeah.
But a little bit of a late start.
Hey, better late than never. When
Yeah,
it comes
for
to
sure,
this,
for
for
sure.
sure.
But I wanted to ask you. Now I'm going to interview you guys.
All right. Hey,
now,
turn around.
So it's only been 4 hours. Okay, so where were you guys before? I know you were just here. Have you been in this church forever?
No. I started coming here in August of 21, when I started the college.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it seems like you've been here 15 years. The way you're so, shined in. So you started at Daystar College, and before that,
I hadn't gone to church in. Well, I was coming here on and off since 2018, but for the most part, I didn't really go to church at all for 3 years. There was a person that I had allowed to manipulate me in the worst ways possible, including taking me out of church twice, which includes the church that I was saved at, Hansel First Baptist. I went there for 4 years. She took me out of there. And then when we started coming here, 3 years later, after she'd taken us out the first time, we finally started going to church here. I got really connected here. People loved hanging out with me. So every time I'd come here, people were like, "What's up, Nick?" Blah, blah, all that.
Yeah. Same.
And she seen that and didn't like it again. Took me back out again. But I made it here. If it wasn't for that, if it wasn't for her, I would have never come to Daystar. So, I feel like you said, it's not time wasted, but it's.
You rode in on a broken horse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. I feel like it was definitely meant to be here. I feel like I could have made it here in a different, much better path, but regardless, I still got here, and that's what's important. So. Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, but. I mean, I know y'all are youngins. It's just so amazing how fast Jesus will clean you up and just set you up straight, right?
Yeah.
All you gotta do is say, "Okay, I accept that."
Yep.
And then He does all the rest of the work.
Yep.
And it's the times I've spent thinking, and I still struggle with this. The guilt of not being more spirit led, and the lost opportunities like to live a spirit led life because it's so joyful. You're like, I could have been this joyful all that time. I could have known I was going to have a family in my 20s. I could have been working to set them up instead of goofing off, running around the world. Not putting down roots or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's just a testament to how wonderful Jesus is, and the come as you are, is so important, and especially for people like me, just a completely lost little child, trying to run things in my life that I had no business trying to run, until the age where you're supposed to be wise.
Yeah.
And I'm just starting, so everybody shows up, with some amount of brokenness, and that's, I saw a comment the other day that said, "Why do people wait to come to Jesus until they're at the rock bottom?" And, my first answer to that is like, well, those are the ones you hear about. A lot of people walk with Jesus their whole lives.
Yeah, and it's not like you plan it.
Right.
Like, I'm going to get to the worst
I'm gonna go
point
to the
of my
bottom.
whole life, and then I'll accept you.
Right.
What?
I think sometimes He has to get you there to listen and to see what you need.
Absolutely. It
takes that
strips you down,
sometimes.
right? Like, what else do you have left?
Yeah.
And I know that, for me, I've always been the high five. Hey, all right, what's up, guys? Everybody's cool. Yeah, love you. Everything's cool. Let's do a little party.
Yeah.
But inside, just stripped down, feeling like worthless. Like I'm not helping anybody. I'm barely, again, I never was anything less than completely dedicated to my family. So thank goodness, I don't have that regret. But I do regret that I let them down in the spiritual world as that. But again, like I said earlier, Jesus just gave me a pass on that one. Just saved me. But all that to say, it's so beautiful that we can all be so completely broken and just say one word and it's all done.
Yeah.
And I know eventually I'll get over my regret and things like that. And, that's a lot about what freedom's about, put all that down and, now my big thing not struggle with, but that I pray for is just to know when it's my voice, which is stupid, and when it's Jesus telling me to do something. And we know if Jesus is telling us, that's the way to go.
Yeah.
Now, if I can only figure out, make sure I know which is which.
Of course.
That's a big thing I'm trying to work on now. But being in this lovely place around all these lovely people gives me no doubt that that I'm meant for something, and same with you. You came in here, you've got those regrets about what you did before.
Yep, it took me a long time to get over them, but
and now it's look at you now, look at you. And then, so how about you guys? Why were you not here? I know your family has been involved with this church before. I'm not asking me to give you any crazy family business, but like your parents were here in the past?
Yes. So they were in Glory Hill times, and
Which was the start of the church.
yeah, which was
Right.
before it was Daystar. And so they've always been intertwined with this. I don't really know the story on how they ended up going to other churches, but my dad is a pastor,
Okay.
and so we had our own church. Still do.
It was inherited to us.
It was
Okay.
inherited. All the elders passed away.
And one of them just handed it to us. He told our dad that he felt like that we were the ones to have the church.
Okay.
Well, he said he knew. He said, "You're the one that's going to have this church."
And
So
your dad's like, oh, okay.
Well, he was told before, actually.
Right.
And then he was like, went
God
down.
told him beforehand.
Okay, perfect. So he's like, I know.
He's like,
Hey,
yeah.
that's-
But a few
when that's happening.
a few months before we started coming here, our house burnt down. And we're big animal lovers. We went from 23 to 4 real quick.
Animals?
Yes.
Oh, God bless. So
Everybody was safe. Everybody was out of the house. My mom all of a sudden felt an urgency to just go to Dollar General out of nowhere. And they almost left my little brother and he would have died. But she woke him up out of bed and like, let's go, let's go, let's go. And so everybody got out of the house and it blew up.
The old DG run is saving people's lives.
right? So we were rebuilding our house by our hands. Our dad's been a carpenter like his whole life. So we were rebuilding from scratch every day, day and night. Exhausting.
I must say, we were only making the house 25%. God was doing the
Yeah.
rest.
The way he
You're
provided
leaning in
things.
on that.
Oh
just
yeah,
helping God a
no. Like it's not possible what got done. But so our church, everybody quit going all of a sudden after the house burnt, and so when we opened church a few weeks, it was our household, my grandmother, and one other person.
Okay.
And so it was really going downhill, and that one other person only came occasionally. So we were sitting there going, why don't we do this at home? And we were feeling like God was telling us to pray about it.
Like do porch church? Okay.
And like pray about it. But so we were really building the house, and then Mom wanted us to take a break and stuff. And
Well, it got to the point where God's like, this is not church, to the point where we were just getting by on Sundays, to the point where it's like, we're just playing church, God's not telling us this, so.
Yeah, I understand that.
so our mom kept telling us, I feel like y'all should go to Daystar on Wednesday nights. And we're like, yeah, sure. And the first night we came,
But we were like, no, Mom, we got work
Yo.
to do. We got to get our rooms done.
I would love a bedroom.
I would love to live in a house because we were in the church basement. The church we owned, we were living in the moldy, old, cold basement.
Yeah.
Hey, it
All of
wasn't
y'all.
that bad.
It was
Right.
awful in my opinion. So
Did it have
anywho.
rooms?
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
were
two.
you all like,
We-
good night?
Yeah, there was 2 bedrooms downstairs, and there was a kitchen that we didn't use. We used the upstairs kitchen because it used to be an old, what's it called?
A meet and three?
Revival thing.
Oh, yeah,
So they had a big old kitchen.
Oh, okay, like,
It used
Old
to be
school.
a
Yeah, yeah,
Baptist
yeah.
church until
Yeah.
they all got, I don't know, I don't know exactly
I
the story,
think they
but
went to a revival and they got the Holy Spirit.
the Holy Spirit broke out. is
and the
what
Holy Spirit
happened.
broke out, so then they went from.
And that's kind of why the church fell for them, too.
Right.
Because a lot left because they were Baptist.
But anywho, so we were rebuilding everything. It's like, well, at the end of the day, I don't want to go to church and talk to a bunch of people I don't know. Going to a new church is hard. It can be
yeah,
hard.
yeah.
And so we were like, I really don't want to do that. And anyway, so we finally worked up the courage to go, and
Mom got us to
Mom
go,
got us to go.
And then your first night, you're like, we're just going to be here for everything
First night we
that
drove
happens.
up and nobody was here.
Right?
It was raining and they called it off.
Oh,
So we got
That's
here,
true, I
we
forgot
pulled
about
up,
that.
and there was no one here. And we were like,
Well, okay, God, we hear you. No, we don't need that. That's what I want in my
So we
back
did-
porch church.
then we didn't go the next week, and then we worked up the courage to go then the third week, and then we checked the internet, made sure they were still having it and everything. And then so we came, and we had no idea what was going on. You know, we sat in service and everything. And then they're like, break off a small groups. It's like, what do we do now? And then Stephanie Wagoner, if I say her last name right, she set us up with Sophia, and we met a bunch of people and just started coming regularly.
Was Braxton the pastor? Yeah.
No, they were looking for
They
a
had
pastor when we
none.
started.
Okay, that's
We came like
that's how it was when we started.
we came like maybe a month before they found a pastor.
Right.
It was August 28th, maybe. It was sometime in
Okay.
August.
Because Ruthie wasn't really going to midweek all the time, but she remembers when there was no Braxton. I don't really. Maybe I do. But see, I wasn't coming to midweek, but I would I'd get out of my small group in time to run over and get a little worship in. And then when small group stopped, I was still driving Ruthie up here every week. And I'm like, what am I going to do? You know, this is like free worship time. I'm going to go in and worship.
Yeah.
You know, and of course too, I saw Braxton at Nukes when he didn't know who I was, and I'm like, hey dude, you know, you're the new pastor, right? And he's like, yeah. I was like, all right, you know, welcome to Daystar. We love you already, you know, and I love him so much, you know. Yeah, that was kind of the same time we were getting into Wednesday nights as well, you know. And eventually, I think Brax was like, well, if you're going to be here every Wednesday, you know, make yourself useful.
Do something.
Yeah.
So eventually we started coming on Sundays, and then our mom and dad felt led that they come on Sundays too with us. And so now we're all going here. And we're still praying about where the church building is supposed to go.
Church is the
what's
people,
going to
not
happen.
the
So you still got the building. Your family owns it. And your dad still feel led to lead a congregation?
We
Or
were
do you know?
praying about it. We
Waiting
really-
on God's word.
Yeah, yeah.
We've been told several things about it and all, but we're praying about it.
I know.
All in his time.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's all I had to say.
What I keep wanting is, like, I love the idea of porch church, but not to replace what we got going on here.
Right.
Like, I want like another, like Sunday night porch church.
Like small group.
You know, yeah, I guess it's small. That's what needs to be the small group.
We
I
should
run.
start
Yeah,
something here.
yeah. Sunday evening porch, and I would love to have a little cool spot to do it, like naturey.
I'd love
You know, so you know, I mentioned before how I was one of those guys who's like, I found Jesus in the woods. And that's for my church instead of going, you know. But I still do, you know, except I wouldn't trade our Sundays and Wednesdays for anything. But I still like to get out in the woods and worship Jesus.
It
You
feels
know,
like he's just.
it's just
There's
it's his
no
creation.
distractions and stuff, and it's his creation
also
all
you're
around you.
yeah
Just-
you're worshiping the Creator
Oh, gosh.
in creation.
It's great.
You know, and I love it. So yeah, what I've always thought I would love to have not even like an outside church. You know, where you come and do porch church, and who's got a word today? You know,
That'd be awesome.
I would love something like that, and you know, a beautiful little cross and just some nice places to sit and get into the word. It sounds great to have a little tiny church to work with too. You know, you know, some of the old school things. I'm not so into old school. Now I will say my old school involved very methodical church. Like, you know, I keep going back to Methodist because that's what it was. I'm not trying to pick on Methodist, but it is like you sing the hymns and then it's on the book, and then you know you
I've
only
been
do
to those churches.
you do the first two, and God bless them. I mean, you know, I'm really not trying to say. I'm just saying it never just took me away. You know. And then, you know, there's a lot of propriety. You might guess I don't do great in situations where propriety is really of the utmost importance. You know, like, it's just not my strong suit, you know. Again, they'll say stuff and you're supposed to say something back real quick. And I don't know what it is, you know. But some of the old school stuff, like a family life center, that's what I want us to have. Family life center with a big kitchen,
Yeah.
so we can go do the dinner on the grounds type thing, you know. So in my lottery winning fantasy, that includes a family life center for Daystar Church. So if I could just win that lottery, it's going to be on.
That'd be awesome.
So yeah, I was just always curious about you guys' story too, because y'all did pop up one day, and then you were here every day after that, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, well, these girls must have been going here since they were
Running
born,
around.
you know.
Everybody said that they just saw us working all of a sudden. Just
That's how we were raised.
But yeah, we were raised as a PK, a pastor's kid. So
Yeah.
you worked in the church, you know. You set everything up and you took everything down.
Yeah.
And we were
So
stuck in work mode for working every day on our house. I feel like
we were building.
You're
so
like,
we
we
were
can't
kinda
stop
like
now.
in that work mode mind,
This
you
is
know.
nothing.
So is your house like settled?
We're living in it,
You're,
but it's still a work in progress.
You
I mean, it's like remodel. You're never gonna get it done.
right.
Which now we're doing all the stuff at church, and you got loft that started back, and it's kind of hard to find time,
Yeah.
effort to put in the
Because
house.
for a year we didn't have a life.
Yeah.
It was really hard getting back into a social life. Like coming here was kind of like a shocker. It's like so much people. Oh, you're looking at me and talking to me.
But you know how much how much character that has put into you guys. Like, you know, when something happens in the family, it's all hands on deck.
Oh yeah.
You know, and I mean, I know y'all already had family values, but that one, that's a tough one, dude. Like, and to walk through that together, and it didn't rip your family apart. Y'all stayed in the spirit. Y'all did. That's just a wonderful experience and a wonderful lesson that's going to carry you guys through your life. You know, you're going to use that lesson over and over and over.
I would not take it
Yeah.
back for anything. No.
Yeah, yeah. And so what a wonderful place to be, right? No resentment, not hating the world, not being mad at God because this happened, but to say,
I wouldn't
Yeah.
be who I was without it.
yeah,
I wouldn't.
yeah. So that's a beautiful testimony that you know, nobody wants that to happen to them, you know, but to be able to see what good came out of it, you know, that's really beautiful. Yeah. Nick's asleep.
Poor guy.
Staring at your shoes, they look freaking cool.
They are.
You
They
can
look
zip them
like-
together.
Yeah,
I realized that.
They
You can.
look like a sleeping bag.
they go together. like that.
That is
you can
so
zip them
cool.
together, and apparently you would clip them onto your backpack or something and hike with
I
them.
thought you just
Yeah,
had them good.
I've
I
been
don't
staring
know
at them.
why.
I was like, I was like, man, I love the design. I was like, wait, that looks like a zipper.
Yeah.
Wait, that's a zipper.
They look like pajamas.
I love them.
Yeah, you know, last October my family went up to Tennessee to the mountains, and I walked in and my cousin had those on, and I was like, I'm sorry, but I'm buying those exact shoes.
Yeah, I got to.
I don't mean to match you, but I'm gonna match you.
They look awesome. I'm gonna need some of those. What kind are those?
Merrill's.
Oh, Merrill's are so good. Okay.
But Teva has come out with some, you know, I think the quilted goofy shoe is now
Yeah.
a thing.
Yeah.
So Teva's come out with something that looked kind of interesting, but you know, I had to put these on the payment plan. You know that thing where they'll be like $12 a month, no interest. Oh, that was
Like Kava or something
yeah,
like that.
yeah, whatever it is.
Yeah,
But
whatever it is on there.
I bought these. They were like $80 for the Love.
That's crazy.
And so
Merrill's expensive.
I put them on the $12 a month plan. And
Yeah.
I'll pay. They're going to be paid for in 3 years. No, they're paid for.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look at those. I'm gonna be getting some shoes for Uganda soon. I think they're Vibrams or Vibram soles. I don't know. They're wide toe and they're good for walking, and that's all I know.
That's what you need.
Yeah, because and I need some that slip on and off pretty good for customs. I might have to get some separate like Skechers or something for that.
You're talking about customs at the airport. I was going to ask you
Yeah.
about customs, cultural customs. Do you have to take your shoes off when you go in people's houses?
They don't make us, but they do.
Right.
So like when we go to we go sit in Bishop Nassan's office. So obviously Bishop doesn't take his shoes off, but every single person other than us takes their shoes off right outside the door. When I went there the first time, my first time in there, I took mine off because I was like, "Oh, everybody else is doing it. I might as well do it."
You wanna
And
be
then I
respectful.
noticed that Pastor Kip didn't do it, and like the other pastors that went with us from other churches, they didn't do it. I was like, "Oh, this is just something that they do. Like this isn't something that they're going to be like, hey man, you need to take your shoes off." You know what I mean? And I'm glad that I've seen that because my shoes weren't very easy to put on or take off quickly.
You're laced
Yeah.
up here.
So like I walk out the room and they're like going right. They're like, we got things to do, and I'm sitting there like
You're hopping around.
trying to get my shoes on, right? So from then on, I never did, and they don't expect us to. But as far as them, and I don't know if that is everyone's house because we don't go to people's houses over there because their houses aren't like ours. They're super impoverished, so it's like even people who, I mean, you can't really tell who lives in a random shack or not, right? Because they're all freaking happy all the time and stuff like that. You couldn't tell that they don't live in regular houses. You can't tell that when they leave that building after the conference that they're just going to go home to a one room place that's the floor's dirt,
Right.
you know.
Right.
So, but that was specifically in his office. I think they just did that because he's their bishop, and bishops are held really highly up there. They wear purple robes for royalty over there. So, yeah. As far as shoes, I keep mine on.
Yeah. Yeah, I always, whenever I walk into somebody's house and they're like, need you to take your shoes off.
I hate it.
I don't care for
hate
it because I'm like,
I'm like, no.
I need to be prepared for that too. Or like, am I okay?
Let me plan the right
Yeah.
kind of
Are
shoes.
my feet
Clean
smelling
socks
okay?
on,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also too, I get it. Like it is a pretty nice. First of all, you're hanging out barefooted. I'm a barefooted guy.
Right.
So you know, it's kind of disarming.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
you're gonna be like, well, I guess that's a level of intimacy
Yeah.
we're having
But
together.
I need
that-
you to tell me beforehand so I don't wear my high top sneakers.
Exactly.
So I'm not taking 10 minutes to take them off and put them on.
I have friends. I wear my slip-ons.
Yeah,
I know
exactly.
I'm gonna have to slip them off.
Yep.
You know, I'm also, I'm the no shoes, no shirt guy.
Oh?
Yeah. So this is a fact that everybody, I'm sure, would love to hear about me. Like, I never have a shirt on, ever. Like, I only have one on right now because it's would be socially really weird. So, like,
Very true,
Yeah, and that goes for everywhere I go. Like, but when I step in my house, my shirt goes. If I'm mowing the grass, I'm that guy. Like, hey, how you doing, neighbor? Fat dude on the lawnmower, no shirt. Why would he not wear a shirt? I don't like it.
This is my house.
I'm almost like just weird about it, you know. And I'm sure my wife would probably appreciate it, you know. Like every once in a while, you think you'd slip on a shirt in the house, maybe. I can't do it. And Ruthie's asked me before, like, Daddy, when I have kids, are you just not ever gonna put on a shirt?
What about when she brings friends over?
I will put on a shirt, but I don't like it. And so I will like go out to my barn or something.
Take off the shirt.
Take off shirt. I have a TV in the barn, you know.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Now there's
That's
one,
awesome.
and when she's on the phone with doing FaceTime,
Yeah.
and I know the other night she said, "I'll just walk in the room," and she's like, "Hey, oh, hey," you know. And I heard her tell her friends, like, "I'm sorry, but you know, if you're my friend, you know, eventually you're gonna see my dad without a shirt on the phone, you know." And there's another friend that comes over all the time, and I mean, she's known this little girl since she was 2 years old, and I just now got to where, like, you know what? She's over here a good bit. That's way too much wearing a shirt for me. Like, I think she might have to get used to it. And, you know, the same with, like, I have a niece who, you know, yeah, I'll put on a shirt, but, you know, I get up before her. I'm sitting at the table drinking my coffee, and here she comes, you know, and I don't have a shirt on. I'm like, in a minute. I'll put one on in a minute.
Yeah. I feel that. Okay. Well, I guess since you watched the podcast, you probably know what two last questions I'm about to ask you. What do you have any aspirations, like for goals or maybe some career like dreams that you want to achieve, and what is something God is teaching you right now?
Well, as far as the first question, no, I don't really have. What I pray for now is the discernment to know, for Jesus to tell me what I need to be doing, and the discernment to know, to hear it.
Yeah.
I just want to hear it, and know it's not me, it's Him, and I want to walk it out. Like, because, like I was saying, I'm just too stupid to figure it out myself. I need Jesus to do it for me.
Yeah.
And I don't know, and I've never been a career-minded guy. I've always been, like, just an emotional dude. Like, so all I care about is for my career, I just wanted to take care of my family. Like, otherwise I don't care about it. You know, like, and that seems weird to some people. Maybe it is weird, but like I just want to be able to house and clothe and keep my family warm and fed, and but you know, again, maybe that's why we don't like really go on vacations much or anything, because I always just want the bare, like I just want to be taken care of.
Yeah.
But and you know, I want me and my wife to travel the country in an RV when we retire, but it's not. I don't have any. Like, I want to do this for a living. Again, as everybody knows and can tell from this, I love running my mouth. I would love to, and I know everybody who's new and being spirit led or you know, I my ministry. I got, you know, I don't know what that looks like for me. If Jesus wants me to talk to a bunch of people, great. But I also have been I've been down some dark alleys. I know how to talk to people who are real rough around the edges too. Maybe that's my ministry. It never is wide. Maybe my ministry is meant to be one-on-one when the Lord puts me in that situation. I'm open and waiting for that. I don't know. Would I love to support my family well? by talking about Jesus on a podcast or something all the time? Yeah, like a lot. That would
Yeah.
be great. But I have no idea if that's what
Mm-hmm.
the Lord wants me to do.
Yeah.
You know, I've probably set myself up for, you know, I'm like I said, I'm good at communicating with people who have drugged themselves through the mud a little bit, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and but I just try to open my heart and be where I need to be for Jesus to use me wherever He wants to use me. And I know, you know, I'll still put up, you know, I'll still put up roadblocks to that. I think we all struggle with that daily, you know, to walk His walk, not yours.
Yeah.
But that is truly what I pray for and what I want is the discipline to, you know, the wisdom to hear God's voice and the discipline to follow it. And I know 100% then everything else will fall into place, you know, if I do that. But as far as saying I want to do it this way, I don't know, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as the career, I'm 52, bro. I'm ready to retire.
That's fair. I understand that. Yep.
I'm just looking for my way
Yeah.
out of the
I'm
career.
ready to retire right now, and I'm 26, so I understand. Not to say I'd sit around for the rest of my life because that'd be a lot of nothing. But working 9 to 5 just ain't it.
Well, I always say, people, have you ever been hiking? You know, like I'll say that to be like people who don't know how to not work.
Yeah.
I'm so good. Like, you ever been on a hike? You ever played frisbee golf?
Oh,
It's pretty fun.
I love me some
You know,
disc golf,
like
yeah.
I don't know. You know, I've always been amazed at people who are like, I just gotta be doing this or that. Like, it involves business. Like,
Nah.
you ever been swimming? You ever cannonballed into
Yeah.
a natural
Yeah.
spring? You know, you could go do that. You know, and as far as what God's got on my heart right now, the main thing I'm working on is, you know, I want to knock down walls. Anything I'm doing that Jesus has to leave the room for, I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
I want to sin less.
Yeah.
And I know everybody wants that. And I know we're never free of sin.
Mm-hmm.
But I know a lot of people are a lot better at it than me. And so, you know, I want to, you know, I just want to sharpen myself.
Yeah.
I want to do better. I want I want to do things that make Jesus happy. And so that I'm really, you know, still in that walk. And like I said, I know we all always are. But I've got some great examples of great men in my life. And I want to be more like them.
Yeah.
You know, I
Yeah,
want to, and then I'm desperate to find my voice in ministry, whatever that looks like for me. And again, when I say ministry, I'm not saying be a preacher.
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything because I don't know what it is, you know, but I'm desperate for it.
Yeah.
So, you know, I want to provide for my family a little better. And I also want to be more generous. I want things, I want to be able to help people. I want to open a venue where on Friday nights, that's where people come instead of bars and stuff.
Yeah.
They come out, and it may not be open, but it may. But if it is, who knows what's happening in there? Do y'all ever watch this? There's a guy in Mobile. Every Friday night, they come on TV, on YouTube, and they do a live stream. In a minute, maybe the name. They start at 5 o'clock, and I'll go home. I'll turn it on, you know, or I clock out at 5. I don't go home, but I'm at my computer. I can say goodbye to work, you know.
Yeah.
And I go outside to the carport cathedral, and I start watching. Anyway, and they're just praising. They slowly get warmed up with some praise music, There's a room full of people. And then they'll go for an hour, hour and a half before the preacher even stands up. So, a lot of times, I'm trying to hang out with the ladies too. I don't want to, just be on the carport.
Yeah.
So I'll go inside and we'll do, have dinner or watch Seinfeld or whatever we do, And I come back out, I'll check back in. They're still going. They'll go till 11, midnight every Friday night. And I was like, man, that would be cool. What if you just saw like a preacher you love, Francis Chan. Not that he would
I
come
love
be
Francis
at my
Chan.
church. But what if you knew somebody like him? What if you met him and he wasn't like, who are you? I would never come
Right.
to preach at your church.
Yeah.
But like if you just said, would you have a word for people? You don't have to be a professional. You don't have to have this reputation. You can come to this place and just give us your testimony, give us your word. Like, I don't know, man. So, something like that just sounds like so. Or, there's no message tonight. It's all praise and worship. I've met these guys. They're a great, worship band. And that's who's jamming tonight. It's free. Come on. I don't know. Stuff like that. That's a big one. But like I said, that's the kind of stuff I entertain for my own self as far as ministry goes.
Yeah.
But those are, just like little fantasies. But
Hey, nothing's impossible.
it's certainly
Right.
not.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
Jesus
yeah.
wants that to happen, it'll happen.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'm just, again, not so sure what he wants. So that's
Yeah,
what I
yeah.
want. And, I've been doing the thing. Hey, brother, I'll pray for you. No, get away from me. Who are you?
Yeah.
So, but maybe that's what I'm meant for, just to be a one-on-one guy, you know?
I mean,
And who knows?
most of ministry is off the platform anyways.
Right.
A lot of people think that ministry is only from the platform, and that just ain't true. It's a super, super small part of it. Not unimportant, but it is definitely not close to all of it.
Oh, of course not. And, but anything, I'll never be a preacher where I'm at a church and
Yeah.
where there's administrative stuff going on and I got to be doing all, or whatever. It's like, I don't see that happening unless Jesus just literally says that you all have no choice. you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
But I know there's a ministry for me out there. I'm just so hot right now. I'm so emotional. And, I need to mature up in a lot of ways. Again, I didn't have a kid till I was 35 years old. I delayed maturity so long. So, and I've matured up a lot in life, but I have to mature in my faith too. I have to mature in my whatever my so-called ministry is.
Yeah.
And and I also have to walk the walk I want to walk so I can confidently minister to people. And it's very important to me not to feel like a fake or a fraud, And again, I don't think saying I have no sin is that, because we'll never get there. But I definitely I don't know. I guess the big answer is I have no clue. I'm just having faith that the Lord's going to lead me where He wants me, and I've prayed and pray every day that I'm here. Use me.
Yeah. That's something I've been trying to I don't know, get implement more, I guess. Stop worrying about what I need to do with my life, like as a whole. Like what big thing do I need to hunker down on and do for the rest of forever? Just like what do I need to do right now? Am I in the right place? Do I need to go somewhere else? Things like that. Like just in every situation, mostly vocational.
Yeah.
Because I don't have any passion for roofing. I don't really care much for it at all. So I naturally, I just don't feel like that's where I belong. So, But before I got the job, I was praying for help with finances, and they pay me very well. So I guess that's why I'm there right now.
Well, we always, and also, my prayer every day too is, Lord, please put the people in front of me you want in front of me. And when
Yeah.
you do, please give me the words. Because I'm really good at spitting out words.
Right.
But not necessarily in the right order.
Yeah. I can yap
And
for
so
sure.
I can run my mouth like with the best of them, but what's coming out? What is it getting? What is it accomplishing?
Yeah.
So I think that's where a little maturity comes in, a little more
Yeah.
knowledge about the word, but I'll always use my heart because that's just me.
Yeah,
Um,
I like. I don't like when people say a bunch of words with no substance. So, Motion 24 was incredible. I want to preface that.
Yes,
It was
and
life
I
changing.
got to go.
Yes, he did get to go. That's what he was talking about earlier when he was talking to Hannah. I think it was the last day.
Yep.
Because I remember I sat behind y'all and I talked to you for a little bit.
Yep.
And
I remember that.
I also didn't really know who you were. I don't even think I knew your name at that time.
There's this
I was
old
just-
dude at Motion.
I was just
It's like
trying to
working
get
like
to-
crazy.
I was trying to get to know you, and if I'm being honest, I really needed an excuse to talk to her.
Hey Ned, what's up, dude?
Yeah.
Hey girl.
But at the same time, two things can be true at the same time. Motion was incredible, life changing, and there were some speakers there that were just clip farming.
Pastor
And
Earl.
Just saying things just to be popular.
Oh, right. I see.
Like, I love Rick Wilkerson Jr. Good Lord, I can't say his name, though. Rich Wilkerson Jr. Love him to death. He's a great preacher. But specifically at Motion, when he's got 40,000 students around him, he says a lot of buzzwords. And I swear, none of his message made much sense because he was just saying phrases.
Getting people hyped up. Yeah.
That would be relatable.
I don't even
So-
remember everybody. Like, because half the time I was like, 4 hours of sleep?
Yeah.
What are y'all doing here?
Yeah.
I'm too old for
Yeah.
this. And
Pizza
I would say I was
every
so
day?
thankful to go to Motion
Yeah.
with all my lovelies.
Yeah. And the
Y'all,
first 2
all the
days,
other
it felt
lovelies.
like we were freaking 35,000 feet in the air. Just climbing stairs, bro, all day.
And I just thought it was so, Motion is a big part of my testimony. But, a year later, I'm there with Ruthie.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
she
that
didn't
was
get to be with us.
that
but,
was incredible.
yeah, we did get to worship together a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And that was such a wonderful, like, look what we did, I love that place. But the person I took away from Motion was Earl McClellan.
Earl. I did like Earl.
Yeah, and he had the message about if you want to be up here, you better be serving.
Love
Yeah.
that guy. Love
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
guy.
the dude with the broom.
That was
Yeah.
the second day. I love that. See, there's a lot of great speakers that day. Rich was on the first day, and I feel like he was just trying to get it hyped because it's the first day. You really got to get them ready for the long day. God, because that long day, my
It
goodness.
is long.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, incredible worship, awesome. Obviously, not everything is going to hit for everybody all of the time, but that's not the point, right? So,
Yeah. But and then that was another just a moment where the Jesus just handed me what I needed. All of a sudden I'm a leader and I got these boys, and I don't know how to minister to these kids,
yeah,
and all of a sudden, I'm going, well, do you guys want to talk about anything? In the room, like at night,
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah,
yeah.
how about this and this, And I'm like, wow, okay. I guess we could talk about that a little bit, And it ended up, and of course, I didn't know how much of a how well I was doing, or if
Yeah.
I was doing well at all. But ended up it just turned out so great, and very rewarding. And and Pono was like, yeah, the boys said they really enjoyed you and all that.
Yeah.
And oh, really?
I do.
That's so great and rewarding because I just feel like I'm just stumbling through all this. But then that's when yeah, I've been through a little bit. If you're gonna ask me as a young guy, and now I've got all this experience, good and bad, but now it's got Jesus spread all over it. It can come out even if I shouldn't know what I'm talking about, it can come out in a good message, and I've kept those relationships, and I love my Madison boys,
Yeah.
and love Pono too. Come on,
I love Capono. He's
I don't personally know him that much.
he's a cool guy.
I know his kids because I watched them one day.
yeah.
Motion 24.
And then Terrence and Paulo and Jonah, just
I love Jonah.
those boys are just good boys, and that's another blessing I got. I didn't get because with the rowdies, the only way I know how to deal with a rowdy is getting rough with them.
Yeah.
Like I was raised country, so look, you get online, you're gonna get slapped. man.
Yeah.
And I this is a part of my growing process as being a youth leader too. I had to deal with the kid the other night who I was just at a dead end with him, and he wasn't having it for me either. And I had to tell him, look, I don't care what you think. I'm grown, and you're a little kid.
Yeah.
But then I was like, all right, man.
Wait a minute.
I also love you, brother. I love you.
Yes.
And I want you to let me love on you.
Yeah.
If you don't let me, and I just had to end up telling him, like, put them down. You can put your dukes down when you come in here, but don't make me get mine up.
Yeah. I was the
But,
same way during the message. I told some kids to shut the freak up.
Last week.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
after the message, or during prayer, after the message, I walked out. I said, "Hey, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like that was a bit much."
I mean, I try to always tell them, and Braxton and Drew teach me a lot about that. Like, always keep love at the top, which is not my, that's not my initial reaction when I'm getting disrespected, But my boys, Terrence and Paulo and Jonah, they were good kids. And so I didn't have to break down a bunch of walls in order to communicate with them. That's what I was trying to get at. They were already ready. Their hearts were open to give me a chance to talk to them. And, I just love them to death. I still talk to them and me and Terrence stay in touch all the time, and I love those boys, and again, just to bring those kind of people into your life is such a great, and that's where my immaturity comes in handy.
Oh.
Like I'm old, but I can still relate to the kids,
Yeah.
to the young guys.
I feel that. Motion 24 was where I really connected with her the first time. It just so happened that I ended up sitting next to her on the first night, which it was by a lot of effort and accident at the same time. So I was just kind of walking around. We'd all found our seats.
Yeah.
And she and her whole group was kind of sat down. And there just happened to be a seat on the end, open. So I stood there next to the seat and was just greeting everybody and talking to everybody while standing next to the seat.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't say anything. I didn't go like, "Hey, I'm sitting here." I was just standing there. And then when it started, I think I asked if anybody was sitting there.
Was the seat taken?
Yeah. So
Forever.
forever. And she ended up praying over me during the prayer.
Oh,
there.
how beautiful!
It was a great time. And then I was stuck with the effort of trying to sit next to her for the rest of the weekend, and it didn't happen. That was the only time that happened all weekend. I was like, dang, I don't know if she knew that I was actively trying to sit next to her.
I
the
was
rest of the
always
weekend.
searching for you.
Oh,
So I was always
how
like,
sweet.
where's he at?
Yeah.
I
Is there
can't find
nothing
you.
more magical and like you realize, oh, she likes me back.
Yeah.
You know, or he likes me. I know. You know, me and Paula met in 1990, and we went on like 2 dates. We kissed a couple times. I don't know. Then never talked to her again. 10 years later, I was at these people had become my best friends in the meantime. So ends up, after we never talked again, she went to Alabama School of Fine Arts and became really good friends with all my future best friends. So, but when I met them, she was in Mobile. And then I knew them for a couple of years. And then I walk into my buddy's house on New Year's Eve, 1999, going to about to be 2000. You know, that was a big year for parties, right? Party like it's 1999. And there was Paula. After 10 years. I was like, hey, you know, we made out 10 years ago. What do you know?
What do you know?
Let's get married and stay together forever. Yeah. And we did. So,
That's awesome.
it was that was a great. But then, you know, I always kept telling myself, we were kind of dating around, kind of being friends. I was like, this girl's way too good for me. Like, she is not gonna. I'm just a mess. I mean, when I bought our house that we were gonna move into when we got married, I bought it. We got married in February. I bought the house in December. You know, I had a kayak, a bicycle, a blow-up bed, 2 of those little TV trays, a hot plate, not an oven or a stove, and a cooler you plug into the wall, not a refrigerator. I had my satellite dish box turned upside down with a TV on it. And a couple of those little old-timey school chairs that are made out of plastic, a little scooped out bottom, you know. A skateboard, and a dog. And that was my entire life. That's what I had accumulated by the time I was 33 years old. I had nothing. Like, because I'd never, like I told y'all before, I'd never planned for a family. And I would spent my whole life just running around the world, like, just traveling and, you know, sleeping in weird places and stuff. And I'm like, she like folds her clothes and puts them away and like keeps her house like neat and stuff like that. I'm never gonna be good enough for her, you know. And it was just such a wonderful feeling when like she likes me, you know. Can
Sometimes
you
I
believe
still ask her, like, you sure?
You sure about that?
You
Makes
sure?
me mad.
Yeah, she gets angry when I'm like, hey, I got to make sure, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
My-
let me know now.
Yeah.
No, y'all are. I love all 3 of you guys so much, and I'm happy for you guys too. That is, and I just love the way, you know. And again, people in other parts of my life just think this is so insane, like to know the notion of knowing you're going to stay married, 100% knowing it for sure, blows people's minds.
Yeah. Like, why is that such a weird
I
concept?
try to explain, or getting married young, that it's 100% going to work out.
Yeah.
Like, because it's biblical. If you live a biblical life, the things that roadblock kids who get together young or that ends up ruining their marriages don't come into your life.
Yep. Yeah.
You know? And I've had to explain that. It's like, I love Dalton and Holly so much. Those sweetie pies. And then they're like, yeah, we've been dating since we were in 7th grade. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
That is so adorable.
Yeah.
And, you know, cynical people will be like, well, that doesn't work. You can't just date somebody from the time you're in 7th grade and live with them for the rest of your life.
Right,
It's impossible.
right. Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, no.
They're like, eventually you're going to want to see what someone else is like.
It's 100%
No.
possible, and these kids will do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like because they're living their lives biblically.
Yeah.
And that's what straightens all that stuff out. You know, and you can know that going in, and so I speak that over you guys. I know that that you're gonna be together forever.
I had several people tell me to be careful and not to get hurt because I'm her first relationship.
What kind of thing is that to say to somebody?
I don't know. I'm like, bro, like she's not gonna get curious and be like, I wonder what it's like to be with this other dude. That's not how this is working. Like I know that eventually we're gonna get married and like I'm gonna be 82 and she's gonna be by my side.
Yes.
Right.
But I'd
like-
really like to make a bet with those people.
Right.
Because I'm like, okay, I'll tell you what.
So when was it? What,
The day
yo,
we break up, okay, I'll bet you $50. If we break up, I'll pay you $50.
Right.
On our wedding day, you pay me $50.
Right.
Or our 12th anniversary or
Right.
something, you
Or
know?
50th anniversary.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know?
Yeah.
How long are we going to take?
Some way or
it?
another,
Yeah.
I'm winning $50.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
got my 50 either
The
way.
question is, when do you think you want to give me $50?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know when you, and I think it too, and again, I would have been this person in my past life, but knowing, learning more about living your life by biblical principles, you know it's going to work out because it is biblical. And I say this, this is another funny thing about me. I love the Robertsons from Duck Dynasty. That's who I want to be.
Yeah.
Those guys.
You're all about their podcast too, aren't you?
I love Unashamed podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to Unashamed.
Yeah. Great podcast.
I love them. Well, I love that they go in. They kind of just talk like dudes for a little while, but then they're like, "All right, it's time to get into the word."
Yep.
And they'll get into some serious word
Oh,
too.
yeah.
You know. And I love how No Bones. Phil is like. He's really a real good inspiration for me because he's always been like, it's right here.
Yeah.
And his story, although it is dramatic and all the things that happened and the way things came together for them, his story is dramatic, but like all of us, him being saved is simple. It was just him accepting the word and sacrificing his heart to Jesus and saying, I'm open. I'm yours. And then he, then the rest of his life becomes this, like, no, it says right here, this is how you do it. So I'm going to do it that way.
Yeah.
You guys can see how it works out for you.
Yeah.
But this is how I'm doing it.
Yeah. It's like it really doesn't have to be any deeper than that.
Right.
This is what it says. Maybe you just do that.
Yeah. And I mean, how many people has he brought to Jesus, man? With that simple message of just look to the Bible, look to the Word, because it's not just words.
Yeah.
It's the living Word of God, and
It's that simple.
yeah, and beautiful. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. We love Jesus.
Yes, we do. Yes. Well, Ned, has been a great episode 31, potentially also episode 32. We'll have to see when I go into editing this thing. If there's not a good enough breaking point, it might just be the longest episode I've ever put out, which is fine. Just take a couple days to listen to it. It's not that deep.
YouTube
You know what I mean?
has a pause button.
Yeah.
You can always come back.
There's a chance where you'll probably have 2 weeks to listen to it before the next episode. I think you can find time. Should I say please find time? Let me be a little more nice about it. Please find time to listen to this whole episode. I'm probably going to cut that part out and put it towards the beginning. Just a disclaimer, this episode is probably very long. But it's been great having you on, all of your awesome stories. I'm sure there are many more where that came from.
Yep. That was the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, and I hope we can get into them someday. It's clear, it's very obvious that you've had your own podcast before. because you know exactly the questions to ask and how to answer our questions. So that was really, really nice.
Running my mouth is my strong suit.
We love it. You guys, I'm going to take a quick second. So, I don't know if I should say this now that we're probably 3.5 hours into this episode. Maybe I'll make a whole nother episode about the goals that I have for this podcast. But I'm going to briefly say them right now. For 2025, I want this podcast YouTube to have 1,000 subscribers, and I want the TikTok, which I haven't necessarily posted on yet, but I will eventually start posting once I get enough clips and stuff to do so. I want the TikTok to have 10,000 in the year 2025, and the Instagram in 2025 to reach 100,000 followers. Those are general numbers that on those respective platforms can actually start generating a decent income. So that's why I chose those numbers, just because at that point I can actually start getting deals and monetizing those channels and pages. So that's what it is, and of course I'll make a separate one. I'll probably the last episode of this year, I'll just make an episode explaining some goals I have for the coming year. But that was episode 31, possibly 32. Check out the description below and click all those links. There's links to donate to us, or should I say our Uganda trip. There's links to follow my personal socials and consider the Ravens' socials. If you don't want to read through all of them and click through them individually, there's a link all the way at the bottom that shows you all of it. It's the link tree, right? So there's that. And in that is also a link to this really cool hat. If you see it and you like it, it's representative of the Upside Down Kingdom. There's plenty of other hats and hoodies and shirts and shorts and bracelets and necklaces where that came from at malta-apparel.com. You can use code Sterling15 and you'll get 15% off of your order. Yeah, love you guys, and I'll see y'all in the next episode. Peace.
Love y'all.
That's a wrap, fellas.
Yes. Well, that'll be a clip for sure.
Blooping. We're blooping it up.